I went through kind of a big gut check and reality check when a lot of my friends either were just giving me the silent treatment or were willing to, just tell me straight up. And Brandon was one of those people, and Tony was one of those people. And it was kind of ironic in a sad way, because right before Todd passed, he and I were very close and we were talking often, and he was like, "What's your problem with Steven?" I was like, "That's a good question. I don't know."
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Cold-Blooded Caffeine, a small batch coffee company built around reptiles, conservation, and really good coffee. Founded by Trey Hall and McKendrick Dunn, Cold-Blooded Caffeine connects roasted to order coffee with real-life conservation in coffee-producing countries. 5% of every bag sold goes directly to conservation efforts, and I'm excited to announce that the Expert and the Idiot podcast now has its own custom coffee blend. Every penny from my profits from that blend will be donated to indigo conservation through the Orient Society. If you want great coffee that actually supports the animals and ecosystems we all care about, check out coldbloodedcaffeine.com. This episode is brought to you by Soul Reptile. Soul Reptile is a boutique, direct-to-consumer lighting and husbandry company focused on bringing the latest reptile physiology and lighting science into the hobby. They're the creators of the Vision LED, the most powerful UVA1 LED available for reptile lighting. They also produce precisely tuned near-infrared systems designed for specialized animals, including invertebrates. If you're serious about replicating natural sunlight and dialing in your animal's environment, Soul Reptile is pushing that science forward. Soul Reptile, the science of the sun. This episode is brought to you in part by ExoTerra. If you're as passionate about reptiles and amphibians as I am, you know that quality matters. I use ExoTerra products on all my reptile and amphibian enclosures, which is why I'm excited to be partnering with them. From naturalistic decor to innovative lighting and enclosures of all sizes, ExoTerra has everything you need for your cold-blooded companions. ExoTerra, make your reptiles feel at home. This is the Expert and the Idiot podcast. If you like the show and you'd like to support us, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. Some benefits include getting access to new episodes up to a month in advance. There's also links to USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not already a member, please sign up. Enjoy the show. Dude, episode 128 with Riley Jimison from Riley's Reptiles LLC. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm doing good, man. Life is good.
Nice. So what's going on in your world right now with snakes professionally? I know that are you still on the hunt for a job?
No, I just decided to start my own LLC and make it official, so I don't need to go look for a job.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, it really doesn't matter where the money comes as long as bills are paid. So I figure, things just kind of, we're going in this direction. So I'm just going to lean on the signs that I'm getting and just run with it. And it's been perfect. So I've just been betting on myself, and it's been the right bet every time so far.
Damn, hell yeah. That's always good to hear.
Well, it was scary at first, though, of course, kind of getting pushed off the edge into the deep end of the pool, and it's sink or swim, right? And, there's a lot of animals that rely on me, my wife, my cats, we kind of have a lifestyle to support. And so there's there's a threshold that I want to achieve, and I'm kind of a, do whatever it takes kind of person, and just found a way to make it work, and kept finding more ways to make it work better and better. And then at some point it was just it dawned on me, like, I don't need to be looking for a job. I need to create this job. And I've kind of been doing it for the last, 13, 14 years building up to this point without really actively thinking like, okay, I need to hit these numbers. I need to hit these numbers to do it sustainably. It just kind of grew into that. And I think subconsciously it was what I wanted to do, but it was never like going to bed at night, like, okay, what can I do tomorrow to get closer to achieving my goal? It just kind of fell into place. And so the last few days, in particular, but ultimately the last couple months, even just had a lot of people that have, without realizing it, have inspired me in such a way that's like, it kind of seemed out of place for them to be saying something. It's just like, why did that just come to me? Why did you just say that right then and there? Because it came at the perfect time. It was something I was thinking, and it was the motivational push that I needed. And looking back on it, it's like, those didn't happen by accident. Like, there's certain people that kind of pop into your life or are always in your life, but like make a moment a little bit more impactful without realizing it when you look back on it. If you allow yourself to sort of see that thing, it's just kind of like if you let the universe flow and you go with it and you're looking for it, you can see some pretty amazing stuff. So that's just kind of where my head's been at. The universe has been trying to tell me to stop trying to control it and just don't be afraid of it and just roll with it. And so that's where I'm at.
Can you give me an example of one of those people that said something or did something that helped you see that vision or that path that may have been in front of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Starkey of Star Pythons over in Germany. I've known him for a long time. I've talked to him online over the years, and when he was still coming to the States, I had the opportunity while helping a local pet shop to vend alongside of him. And so he's a great guy. I have a lot of respect for him. And last year when I lost my job and things were kind of tumultuous, he just kind of happened to pop back into my life and be a little bit of a coach in certain ways. And he obviously, has enough respect for me to have the interest to reach out, because he gave me such great sort of sage advice in how to, temper where I place my energy and how to proceed. And then he also even was just like, why don't you just, go into business for yourself? I did it in a similar fashion, but I had to start growing my collection at that point. You already have your collection and a name and this and that. Like, I started from scratch with everything and had to build up before animals were even producing. And I've been able to make it work doing this. And here's how, I sort of approached it. And he just really pushed me. He ripped the Band-Aid off. He's like, dude, you should just do it. And I was like, wow, that's kind of a scary thing, but that's really interesting. And, I should take a step back and think of the moment here. Like, he's telling me this. Why is he telling me this? So, that was really impactful. And then, yeah, man, just, I don't know. The universe just kept kind of leaning in that direction, and things just kept sticking out to me and just kind of looking for signs, and they just kept showing up. And I don't know. I don't know what to describe it, because I've never really considered myself a religious person by any means, but I definitely think there's some sort of, like force in the universe or energy or spirit or something that, if you're willing to listen to it, it'll help you, guide you through your life. And I think I'm onto something. So I don't know. I'm just here for it though. That's for sure.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, I think you and I have been talking for on and off for like 2 years or so.
Yeah.
And, I have to say, like, recently, I feel like it's been the most positive I've seen you in a long time, even though you could potentially be in a darker place right now, because of everything that's going on. I mean, you just said like how, talking to him and how scary it is, but you already were kind of forced into the scariest part of it. I think for everybody, it would be leaving your job, right? And not having that security.
Yeah. Yeah. You find out that you've already had your safety net pulled away from you. And it's the sooner you can realize that, like, it's up to you and nobody else, the better you are. And so I think it was like the first month getting through, and like bills were paid, animals were fed, everything was still groovy here. The wife and I were kind of like stressing about it because we were like, oh boy, what does this mean for the bigger picture? And then we got through the second month, and then we got through the third month, and then it was like, wait a minute, maybe there's something to this, and then get through New Year's and get through the holidays. And, here we are. And it's like, oh yeah, I've turned down 2 jobs. I'm not even looking back, dude. It's game over. I'm full steam ahead.
This episode is brought to you by Chewy. Most people think of Chewy for dog and cat food, but if you keep reptiles, you should absolutely be using them too. Chewy carries everything from all the brands you trust, like Exoterra, Arcadia, Zoomed, and everything in between. Live feeders to frozen rodents, enclosures, substrate, heat lamps, thermostats, water bowls, misters, and more, all in one place, shipped straight to your door. Sign up for Chewy Plus today, free for 30 days. You get free shipping, 5% rewards, and exclusive offers. I use Chewy, and you should too. What are some of the projects you're working on right now that you're most excited about?
Oh man, it's funny because everything that I am breeding, I'm actually excited about because it sort of started from either adding something that I wanted to at one point in time that I coveted. And it was like, oh, it was such a goal to get it. And then the next goal is raise it up and reproduce it. And then it's just snowballed into like everything. So, albino Darwins was a big thing for me. And now I'm, about to have my 3rd successful season in a row with that. And that was such a milestone for me. And even though I've done it twice, it still excites me because I want to see it again. I want to see, I don't know. When I used to skateboard a lot, it was like, if you land a trick, you got to do it a couple times, 2 to be true, 3 to, really seal the deal, prove it. So if you can do something and then repeat it a few times, and it's like, you really nailed it. So I'm hoping to have my 3rd successful season with them and Brettles. And, just like validating the notes that I've taken from other people and copying, sort of their formulas as best as I can and standing on the people's shoulders who came before me and, just trying to learn as much as possible. But, I've got a possible ocelot trait coming out of some jungle stuff that was an accident that I wasn't trying to plan for. And I've got a clutch this year that I think should iron that out one way or another as far as like conferment and mode of inheritance. More citrus tigers, tons of striped jungles. I think I've got 4 clutches of striped jungles going this year, so I'm really hammering hard on that front. Yeah.
What goes into the genetics of the striped jungles? Is that like are they coming from a lineage of Palmerstons, or is it unrelated to Palmerston locality?
So there's actually no Palmerston in my stuff currently, although I'm not opposed to that down the line. I think I've seen a few recently that just made my jaw drop that I would absolutely like have no issue, throwing in just to strengthen that phenotype. But jungles carpets in general are extremely variable in phenotype, but they're also very plastic, and in nature they can change very quickly to match habitat requirements within a species, i.e. Chenii. And so within one clutch of jungles you can get a wide spread of phenotypes. You can sort of see a similarity between them, but if you just lean onto a look a little bit, you can selectively breed for it. So to me, I think if you lean into the polygenic aspect of certain physical looks and selectively breed for that, you can, the same way we get those really nice clean banded jungles, you can go the other route and get striped jungles. And there's, spontaneous stripes that pop out of a clutch that don't make sense compared to the rest of the siblings. And then there's animals that, half the clutch is striped, and so it kind of makes sense. And the parents had some stripes, so you see it and so you can lean on it. But yeah, I've been working on this project for like 10 or 11 years now. And yeah, like my 3rd generation in. It started with 2 parents, female, or the male was striped, the mother was not. And I kept 1.2 of those animals that turned out to be really striped. And then when I first bred those together, they created a lot of stripes and what turned out to be these possible ocelots. And so I've done those now 3 years in a row. And so once I see this year's results, I'll have the possible ocelot stuff bred back together to see if I can repeat some of these results, and then bred to other animals and a zebra in there that's unrelated to that sort of trajectory of the lineage of jungles that I have. So if I get zebras with ocelots, in theory, I will know it will have come from the female side, because that male zebra I've bred 5 or 6 different clutches over the years, and he's never thrown an ocelot. So it'll kind of make me more comfortable, stating that, okay, it's not just a possible ocelot sort of thing. It's definitely like a line of ocelot producing animals, because you get the bell curve of expression out of a clutch. You get low expression, a couple high expression, and a lot of middle expression animals. And it just kind of matches everything that I've seen with like the early tiger stuff in coastal. So happy accident.
Are you like do other people have first of all, can you define create a mental picture for me what an ocelot jungle looks like?
Yeah. They have a lot of side stripe or side bands that have just gone a little wacky and turned into full on like portholes. That's not a good one. And they have very, very clear, like it looks like a leopard spot, almost like a very clear circular yellow circle on black background. It's either tipped or clean, but in various expressions. But I mean, here you go.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that. So it's like cheetah spots almost, or leopard spots rather. Just
and it kind of works against the striping. Like the ones that have very high ocelot markings have a challenge with the striping. So it's like they kind of go in opposite directions.
How old is that animal?
This animal is a year, almost 2 actually.
Okay. And is that a female or a male?
This one is a male.
Cool.
Yeah. So I had 2 clutches of them, and very quickly I was like, well, I got to keep all of these. But then I was like, okay, I can't keep all of these. So I sent a pair of them to Gerard Bosch and a pair to Lucas Bagnara. And I think I even sold 1 or 2 of like the really, really low expression, like non-ocelot sort of expressing individuals to lighten my load a little bit. So Lucas and Gerard have those, and they love them, and they're going to breed them. And, we'll split babies when that happens, and they get to keep them indefinitely sort of deal. But that way they're sort of still in, in the breeding corral, but, other people can play with them and have some fun. And that way I can sort of keep them all without keeping them all. And then, the fact that I personally would like to be able to concretely say, yes, this animal is a high expression ocelot, or nope, it didn't prove anything, genetic. It's just, this animal has a lot of spots, have fun with it. And then I can know which animals to keep, get rid of, how to price accordingly. Because once in theory, if that zebra clutch proves something one way or the other, then I'll start letting a few of these go, because I've got, over a dozen of them still.
Wow. Well, yeah, that's pretty wild. Now, are there other people producing ocelot jungles in the States?
Yeah, there's a few lines of them. I know Mike Curtin I've always kind of, when I think of ocelots, I think of his stuff, because he was the first person that really came out with ocelots, marketed as ocelots, sold as ocelots, and still to this day are regarded as ocelots. I've seen, a couple other people label things as ocelots. I know Dominic Carbonell up in Canada has a really legit line of ocelots that throws crazy ocelot on every zebra, every jungle, and it's definitely like it's a thing up there. So, but down here, I think a lot of people got away from it, because I know Mike Curtin stuff was popping out of jungle jag things, if I'm not mistaken. So there was some concern. They didn't necessarily want to play with the cross, even though it's technically both chaining eye at this point now that we know better. So I don't know. I think I had a hard time seeing the ocelot and that stuff visually, but I never leaned into it, and I never kind of went after it or anything. I was just accepted it as Mike's the ocelot guy, and I don't understand it well enough. So, one day I'll try and clear my head around it. And I just never did. And then this is just kind of forcing me to learn more and be involved in it, and whatever, more the merrier. I'm happy to take it on. So it's fun.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Damn, dude, I wish I could have gotten in on that breeding loan, but I have a really dumb female that bites, wraps, and drops that I got from Mike Cross. And well, there's him.
Yeah. That whole situation. My goodness. Yeah. I have a female that I'm getting her through that dropping and wrapping thing by, going down a size, and then also changing the way I approach her, because she gets so excited. She like bashes her face before I even get to feed her. And so she always drops the food when I give it to her later. And so I'm trying to like approach her so she sees me coming, so it's not so startling, so that we can work without that first step of the, hey, bam, smash sort of deal. Young jungle. What can I say? At least she's enthusiastic, but, she's getting it. I just went down a size for a couple months and she took them no problem. And now I've got a new method to not startle her. Yeah. Sometimes it's just, they're confident in the moment. And then once they've got it wrapped up, they're like, this might be a little bit much. Even though they're fully capable.
Crazy. I watch her and she'll wrap it, and then she just sits there and noses it and smells it for like 45 minutes, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next time I walk by, it's laying down in the coconut, and she's like, "Where's my food?"
Yeah.
And it's like, you were excited about it, but you like, what is going on here? She'll consistently eat quail, but I don't necessarily want her to be on quail forever.
Sure. Well, it'd be nice to just confidently 100% know that she's going to eat whatever you give her regardless. You don't want to play the game of where's the smell. I played that earlier today. Find the smell. It's you'd be surprised. Those little things can blow up a room real fast. But
I had one drop
like a size down.
Yeah, that I tried actually doing the reverse. Like maybe it's too small for her, because I've been feeding her like small mice, and she's almost 2 now, so it's like, I was like, but the quail, I couldn't step her up to the larger size of quail because they were just too damn big.
Yeah, it's too large of a size jump.
Yeah, so I don't know. She's a pain in the ass, man. I look at her and I'm like, I don't want eggs from you ever, And it sucks because she's the most banded jungle I've ever seen. Like, she has ridiculous banding, and they're very fine and just really good banding. Although the male I have from Mike Curtin also banded fantastically, and honestly, it could be the nicest jungle I've ever seen, with the most just pure yellow and pure black. Nice. Like, really just mind blowing, really for at least for that banding and that really high contrast and 50-50, you know what I'm saying?
Have you put her through a winter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. Because she's been on tiny quail, I may have kept feeding her because she's small, dude. Like, she's so much smaller than like the ones I've gotten from Nick and Mike, and
sure.
And even the male I got from Mike Cross is considerably larger.
Yeah. I don't know. She might just be a slow starter, surprise you one day. Sometimes they just hit a second gear later and catch up.
Yeah. If I tell her she's going to be indigo food, she usually kicks it into gear and she'll eat,
It has the same effect on me. I respond accordingly as well. See if a winter does something for her. Like, if you can stomach, through the rest of this year going into next season, sometimes putting a trouble feeder through a winter, they come out, and I don't know if it's just because they've been so long and they're hungry, or if it's like a winter resets things or what, but I've definitely conquered some trouble feeders that way.
Interesting. So. I might try that. So, feeding is such a wild thing, because most of my, actually all my collection, anything that was over, I think it was 2 years old, out of that first year, didn't eat this winter. And, going through that sort of for the first time, and just letting not nature, but the animals are a part of nature, but letting them do their sort of cycle. It was mind blowing.
Yeah.
They didn't lose any weight. I didn't notice any difference whatsoever. Like everybody was still they were doing snake stuff, you know?
Yeah. It's impressive. The first time I can actually see it, then it really becomes tangible and it really clicks, because you can hear somebody tell you and you can read about it, but until you can really like understand and see it in action and see like, yeah, it's 60 something degrees. These animals are just fine, because it gets back up to 80 something during the day. They're going to be just fine. Or in the case of diamonds, yeah, it's in the 40s. They don't care. They'll take a meal if you bet them, you know, like, some of these animals are just beyond impressive. And yeah, it's like one of the coolest thing. It's like a fun reminder that like, you know, they still surprise us pretty regularly, and they don't necessarily follow the rules, and they certainly haven't read the book. So,
do you think we coddle our captive animals?
Oh, I'm sure there is quite a bit of that. I think it always comes from a place of well-intention, of course. And I don't think it's necessarily, I think we can overdo it, like the overfeeding, the overheating. Like if that comes from a place of concern, that's detrimental. But, you know, I don't think, every bearded dragon is going to have a lesser quality of life because it doesn't have a couch and 2 hammocks in its enclosure. But I don't think that's a problem. I don't think if that animal still eats and thermoregulates and does its thing, who cares what its surroundings are? I don't know. I think people have got a really cool wave going on right now of wanting to do as much as possible for the animals in herpetoculture. And I think that that's a good thing overall. So I like seeing it, and how people approach it, even if some of it is kind of goofy and silly, but I don't really
it's
see
better
a
than
whole
the
lot of harm.
alternative.
Yeah. Like, and there's a lot of people that are, as much as we don't see it, there are a lot of people that are happy to give great advice and communicate and reach out and teach people, even if the comment section is pretty wild at the top of whatever it is. But that's exciting, man. I think there's a lot of good going on in the reptile world as far as that's concerned. So people want to do more for their one little animal. You know, it's like we used to always talk about the fish hobby. They'll spend thousands of dollars on all this lighting and water and filtration for like a $30 fish. Yeah. Whereas the reptile people put $1,000 snake in a $20 tub.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing that shift. We're seeing the average pet keeper actually being fine with, paying more for the premium enclosure, and, wanting to learn about bioactive if it's appropriate, and wanting to do all these extra things. And, we're in a different sort of like circle of the hobby, if you want, where it's kind of like, it's almost old news to us. It's like, yeah, we already know about that. We're all kind of already off and running. But if we stop and just like pause and appreciate like where the state of the hobby is, it's like, you're not just going to an equine store to hopefully find a chick or a mouse and somebody that does not care to help you at all about your whatever. Like there's a lot to be grateful for. So I don't know. I think it's cool to see.
Well, and it's all, the more stuff that is purchased for the well-being of a single animal is just putting revenue into the hobby. It's just building the hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Fake plant sales have gone through the roof. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's
UV
great.
Tubes, I'm sure, are more popular than ever. And,
man. And these big box companies have financial incentive to research the products appropriately now. And like, oh, these people are buying this stuff. We should actually give them the right spectrum of light. We should actually, heed their recommendations. They're spending billions of dollars in this industry annually. So I think it's a very exciting time, man. I mean, look at, COVID kind of snowballed it. And then when it was over, we have this retraction of things, but there's a lot of like this residual, like, excitement and innovation that's just, it's a fire you can't put out in a lot of people, and I think it's exciting to see.
It's and speaking of wintering animals, dude, I took my diamond pythons that weren't even 2 yet that I got from Brandon, and I stuck those ladies outside, and they got down to the mid low 30s one night, and
Yep.
it was a little touch and go, but
Yeah.
I mean, dude, they like in my mind, I thought by the end of this winter, their skin's going to be hanging off. They're going to be looking haggard and ragged and not well, and I took them out. We had a new rule. If the temperature is going below 40, they come in,
Fair.
just for the night, and then they're back out in the morning,
Sure.
As soon as the sun's up and it's getting into the 50s, they're back out. And I remember I went out, my wife's holding the flashlight, and I was like in disbelief because I'm holding the females, putting them in the tubs, and I'm like, look at these animals. They haven't eaten in 3 months. And there's no loose skin. They're just as robust. They're moving around. They're curious. They're tongue flicking. It's like 49 degrees.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
It's crazy, man. And then, that my bigger male, he's got an insulated hide. I think I got with Nick and I was like kind of brainstorming, like, because I didn't want to do any artificial heat. I wanted them to experience the winter as the winter. I didn't want to give them an 80-degree hide to go into where essentially then it's summer in a box,
Right.
I wanted to give them the full experience. And he would come out and get every bit of radiation he could from the sun and store that heat and go and coil into a tight ball in that hide. And really, he was warm to the touch one night when I took him out to bring him in. And it's
That's
like,
so cool.
I said to my wife, I was like, I could almost just leave him out here, it really is cool, dude. Keeping outside is such a neat thing.
Yeah. I love that there's such a plethora of people sharing information on how they're exploring doing that and having success with it, because it's got to be as close to natural in theory as we can get for these animals if we can provide relatively close parameters to their natural habitat. And yeah, you're going to get a lot of natural behaviors, or you're just going to have a whole new fondness and excitement for observing them. I cannot wait till I have a backyard to do the same, because Brettles and Diamonds would do that. I'd probably even go so far as to put like inlands and maybe set up enough for everything to at least do part year outside in some fashion. But that's the whole Willy Wonka and the pie in the sky dream. But last season, before I was doing this at my last job, I had the Brettles cool down in the back of the warehouse. And I remember one morning coming in, and it was 47 degrees in the back of the shop. And I temp gunned the Brettles, and she was like, I don't know, 70 something degrees. But like I touched her and she felt cold, and she like turned around and was like, what are you doing bothering me? I was like, holy smokes, you're alert. Like
she's like, I'm conserving energy.
Yeah. She's like, you made me move. Why? But man, it's fascinating to see. It's like just every year they just remind you how resilient and how tough they are. So so going back to do we coddle them? Maybe, but is that really a bad thing? I don't think we have found a threshold, but it's bad. But, we really do treat them well in captivity these days in human care. And now we're exploring how not only can we get them to do well, but how can we do better than that? How can we, give them above and beyond? And it's exciting because there's just new boundaries to push. It's really cool.
Oh man, dude. Yeah. I'm so excited. Like it's just keeping outside is just so different than keeping inside that it just gets me wound up, it's just neat. It's neat going out, like they disappear and I'm like, okay, they're in shed, I know I'm not even going to mess with them because I'm going to look and they're opaque. Like I, in the beginning, I was very worried. I was like a helicopter parent going out there, checking on them constantly. And I had like this vision of them getting scarred and covered in bugs and, it just, I had like this feeling that like it wasn't going to go well. Like it was going to go really poorly, but it's actually the opposite. Like I feel like they're more robust, more healthy, more active, and it's just it's a pleasure to watch. I mean, honestly, I have 2.2 Argentine boas, and there's part of me that's like, it'd be really cool to keep a pair of these outside.
Oh yeah,
you know?
they would do just fine.
Oh yeah, I mean, where they come from, the Gran Chaco region, where it gets like freezing
Freezes.
cold and
extraordinarily
extraordinarily hot and dry, and
yeah, they're they're like the diamond python boas right there.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah, they would do
snakes
great.
are so cool, man. The ecological niches that they work themselves into and evolve and adapt to.
It's the coolest thing as you sort of
is.
understand a little bit more of why they do what they do, or whatever it is. When something clicks, it's just like, it could be the most rudimentary thing, but it's still so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, they do all this stuff without limbs.
Yeah, exactly. And that did you ever see that video of that guy that put his snake in like a robotic thing with legs?
Yeah.
And he's like, my snake wants legs. And it's like, no, your snake wants legs the same way you want a tail or gills.
Yeah.
Like you're not, you don't think about it. You don't want it because you've never had it. You've evolved to not have those traits anymore,
Yeah, that's not even on their register. Their inputs and outputs are about survival and deciphering what's around them. They're not sitting there going, man, I've got FOMO because that lizard over there just scurried over way faster than me. If I wish I could do that. Like, no, I don't think they register FOMO. But they're ultimately super fascinating, and I love seeing like the different personalities to every single one and learning their quirks and behaviors. And it could be like the most common species, but like there's always something interesting. Like growing up, garter snakes were like it's just a garter snake sort of deal, but then you learn about like the ones at Manitoba with all the breeding balls and the giant garter snakes out here in Davis that I got to work with at the zoo, and just like all the different colors and just how they behave. I mean, just there's something fascinating in every animal if you just stop to take a moment and like think about their biology, their natural history. There's something unique about them all for sure. So they're really cool.
Oh man, when Dr. Loafman told me about the garter snakes and how like the male impersonates the female to lure all the males away, so they like
that's the coolest.
Mate with the male that's pretending to be a female, and then goes back and gets with the female, and everybody else is screwed for the season. Like,
that's the coolest thing.
That is mind blowing.
I wonder if anacondas do that because they do breeding balls.
Well, anacondas, don't the females eat the male in nature?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised in the least if some of them do. Yeah. I
think that they're like full blown cannibals. I know it's been observed where the female breeds with the male, and then you're out of here, buddy.
Hey, it wouldn't be the first time some sort of biology said, this is a good, successful recipe. Let's do this once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Snakes are crazy, dude. Like all the stuff that and it's stuff like that like keeps me really interested in it. Just the behaviors in nature. And then I can look at these animals that are in my house, and it's kind of crazy too. Like, I only have like 25 snakes, which to somebody like you're like, I have that in one rack, but like, for like normal people out in the world, they're like, oh, he's a hoarder, just with 25 snakes. But you come in my house and you wouldn't know, unless a feeder gets dropped in a water bowl and that water bowl is above my eye line, then you might know.
I try to keep it low key too. You might notice a gecko tank in the living room or the tortoises, but otherwise, I pride myself on having it sort of confined in an area. And like my neighbors know to a degree, and they come in and they're cool with it, but not all of them. And so I try not to freak anybody out because they don't necessarily have the perception, but I've certainly had our leasing company come through, and the inspectors are like, so you're the reptile guy, right? I'm like, oh boy, this is going to go one of two ways. And next thing you know, they're playing with geckos, and I'm like, game over. I win.
Wow.
They don't ever inspect me. They just give me a pass. They're just like, cool. You got smoke detectors. See ya.
Wow, dude. So if you ever like when you end up keeping diamonds and Brettles outside, where do you plan on that being? Is it going to be California? Is it going to be Florida? Is it going to be, somewhere warm?
I have a feeling we'll be staying in California. My wife has family in the East Bay. My mom's in the peninsula. My dad, my stepmom are a little bit further inland, Fresno. And I'm a 2 hours drive, down Highway 80 from Reno to go see my brother and go out to the casinos and have a good time and go snowboarding. And we've got mountains 2 hours one way. We've got the ocean 2 hours another way. A lot of good concert venues around. My wife's got a good job at the zoo here. And, she's really, for lack of a better word, she's been in the best position to sort of climb the ladder because of the way things have just gone around her. And so she might be moving up in the world again, in terms of like upper management at the zoo. So I've been super encouraging and supportive of her in that. And she's been super successful and growing and doing a ton and just having amazing life experiences and getting paid to do it. So, I think we've both sort of explored the option of, moving out of state and looking at, following her zoo career out of state and just seeing where that takes both of us. And gosh, we've explored, St. Louis, Kentucky, Florida, Colorado, Utah, Texas. She's applied to a lot of different positions. We've just looked into them virtually and sort of like done some numbers and looked at it, but nothing's really working out. And again, back to my earlier stuff about like the universe kind of giving you signs, that was kind of tough for my wife to go through a lot of these rejections for like upper management jobs that she was more than qualified for. But I had to remind her, like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything against you. And you've got to remember, these facilities tend to hire internally because it's somebody that's trying to climb the ladder the same as you. And they're already familiar with the system. They're already in there. They're already, potentially an easy slide in, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything about you. And so I've tried to be her biggest cheerleader and get her through a lot of that. And it's starting to dawn on her that she's got a lot of, job security here and a lot of good things to look forward to. I mean, heck, she's just finished, kind of getting over having they had a baby okapi this season.
Oh, wow.
3 years ago, one of their orangutans had a baby, and she herself was hand raised, so didn't have the instincts to be rearing a baby and basically rejected the baby. And so my wife basically hand raised an orangutan for like 4 or 5 months, sleeping in the den with it, carrying it on her back, wearing like fleece stuff with strings and strips all over, pretending to be like a mother orangutan, like whole nine. So it's funny. My in-laws have a photo of her and I holding a baby orangutan like it's a family photo.
Wow.
But, it's funny because her level of normal is so exciting to the average person that she doesn't see it. And I have to remind her, like, do you know what you just did today? Like, you pet giraffe, you just did knockdowns on lions, you just caught up 30 flamingos. You don't have a normal day. Like, and I had to remind myself that too. Like, you have to stop and kind of check yourself, because then everything outside can just be kind of a letdown because everything is just like sub exciting or whatever. And so I have to remind her, like, hey, you got a great job. This is what you worked so hard for, and, we're making it work. And now, I've, completed this and got the LLC up and running and finding a way to make it work from home here. And so I'm trying to support her even more. And so the goal is to probably, buy a house at the end of this year or start of next year, depending on how the market goes. We've got a lot of money invested in savings, and just a lot of things are moving in that direction. So the idea is, I'd have like a backyard somewhere out here. The climate, other than probably pretty similar to where you're at, the few weeks where it hits freezing or below, I could probably keep, Brettles and Diamonds and the like outside year round and just have some sort of fail safes for those extreme colds and the extreme highs, because we'll have a few weeks in the summer inevitably where it'll get like 100 plus easily every day. So
wow, that's nuts.
I'd want misting systems and like insulated ground subfloor retreat sort of deal that stay cool for those, but all doable.
Yeah, I don't, we don't, I mean, like my car thermometer will read like 100 degrees, but
Hmm.
I don't think that's accurate. Like
Sure.
we usually max out at like 92, 94, but we have that wicked humidity,
Yeah.
so it just makes it feel so much more
Yeah.
oppressive, you know?
Yeah. We get waves of the humidity. Sometimes there's like dry heat randomly, but it just depends on what wind systems are coming through. But we've got the river that goes right by, and some days, man, it doesn't get below 80 degrees even at night sometimes in the summer. And
Mm,
it's rough. It's everything
yeah.
you can do to try and sleep at night.
Oh
But
man, I couldn't imagine without central AC or
oh
something.
yeah, no, we don't have that. We have a wall unit.
Oh God. Yeah, my
California,
house
man.
drops to 71.
Yeah, that's nice. That sounds cozy. Well, that, it's just more things to look forward to, right? More upwards and onwards and upwards. Got a goal to strive for, and we've kind of been around long enough. There's a lot of shows in the area too, and
Oh
it's easy
yeah.
for me to get to SoCal. It's easy for me to get to Arizona, Nevada. So I'm trying to explore maybe making the Southwest kind of a circuit for a handful or maybe a dozen shows a year at most. But
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes, because I'm basically trying to get to a point starting this season where I'll be producing enough animals that will carry into that winter season and into the early spring, into the following breeding season, where I still have enough animals for sale where I can justify putting together a booth at a show or something like that. Because up until this season, I've pretty much never been able to get all the way through to the next year.
Hmm.
So
Tell me about your MI project that's going on right now.
yeah, so that was inspired because I hadn't done maternal incubation in a few years, and I told myself I wanted to do it regularly just to keep observing, keep learning as like a forever perpetual student. Owe it to myself. And I hadn't done it in the last few years, and so this year I was like, well, what if I could live stream a female? What if I could live stream two? And so I started looking into it and looking into cameras. And then I realized Emily from Snake Discovery has a live stream going on Twitch of the alligator enclosure, their shop, and another spot in the zoo. And I was like, okay, so it can be done. Reached out to her. She told me what cameras to look into. I get looking into the cameras. And basically, long story short, bought the wrong cameras and screwed myself from the beginning. And I was like, no. And
Classic Riley.
yeah, I was all excited. I like put the cart before the horse, and I was like, dang it. And I had at this point already told my patrons, like, we're gonna do this, and they're all excited, like waiting for it. And I'm like, yeah, it's going. And they're like, so what's happening? I'm like, so we hit a snag. And I was like, I kind of have to wait till I can swing, buying more cameras, because I'm budgeting right now. And one of my patrons was like, well, I'll buy those cameras for you because I need baby monitor cameras. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Sent, done. And an anonymous donor reached out to me and got my shipping info and sent me the right cameras and sent
Oh
me
wow.
4 of them, which
Oh
was
wow.
unbelievably generous. And so I was like, okay, now I'm really committed. So I figured out how I could mount them. And then I got them hooked up and I got them running and I got them projecting on the software in my computer. And then I had to go learn a whole another tech language of translating the stream into an encoder and then formatting that in such a way that's not overloading the bandwidth of my internet, plus all these other things. I won't hurt anybody's ears with it, but I had to spend a few hours on Chat GPT and Google figuring out how to like change settings and type in different codes and things like that and get them running and optimize it so it wasn't going to crash my computer and all these things. And now I got it running. So there's 4 females on clutches of eggs right now at various stages of their process, anywhere from like halfway, like almost 30 days to like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in.
Wow.
So it's fun because they've all done it a little bit differently, even though I set up their enclosures basically the same. 3 females laid on the heat. One female's like, nope, cold side.
Really?
One female's like, I'm using your nest. The other one was like, I'm not using your nest, but I'm going to flip it over and now I want to hear. And then the other one's like, I'm just going to move your nest to the side. I might use it. And so they've all done it differently, but they're all fantastic moms. And I've seen, both the albino Darwin and my coastal tiger het axanthic female leave the clutches of eggs multiple times. And I've seen it on camera and I'm like, oh crap. And I go into the room and I just try and observe and gauge what they're looking for. And I think 2 things are going on. I think they're like actively stretching, like, like just giving themselves a break. And then I also think they're looking for food. I think they would happily take a meal and then go back to their eggs. But if I go in and disturb the door and mess with the lock while they're out, they freeze, realize something's happening, and immediately retreat to their eggs. And it's been really cool to just catch on camera, see them pick up the eggs, turn them. And every time they leave the eggs and come back, they position them just a little bit differently. And you can kind of see their coils are different. They'll hold them different. And my Patreon members have been watching it and they message me like, hey, I'm at work and I've got it on and the Darwin left her eggs again. And I can see like 12 eggs, or it looks like she turned them and rotated that. And it's just fascinating. Like, it's the coolest thing. And I remember the first time I did maternal incubation, I had such great success. The animals hatched out, fully absorbed yolks, nice, big, robust babies. And they were all really, really like calm and laid back. And it was great. And then I did it again the next season and more or less the same thing. Everybody hatched full bellies and yolks, but half of them were still a little spicy, but it just seems to be so hardwired into these females that like they know what they're doing without question. With the exception of maybe a jag. I feel like, even then, like I know Ryan DeMoss had a jag MI a clutch for 45 days, leave, go get a drink. And then she went back to the eggs, but went under them and then let the eggs sit on her like a hat. So he finished the clutch for her, but it was mostly her. But I think they all can pretty much do it if you give them the parameters and you're okay with letting them sort of go where they want and do their thing. I've been making sure the water's close by to them because the first time I did it, I saw my female leave the eggs and bring the water bowl closer. I've put more moss in the enclosure because some of them aren't encased in a hide and it's kind of open air. So I put moss in there that I can periodically spray and just spike the humidity in their cages just to help. I don't think they need it. They seem to be doing just fine. I could probably not do that. It'd be great. But it's just one of those things I thought there's a little more air volume when it's not in an enclosed nest box to manage. So just one more little extra thing I'm doing. But again, the benefit of being full time now and doing this is that I can observe these animals and I can really watch them and it's not stressing me out. In fact, I stressed out myself the other day because I forgot I hadn't checked my eggs in the incubator. And I was like, do I have my medium right? Is this, is my thermostat running right? Did I screw this up yet? I'm not worried about them. They're going to do whatever they got to do. The eggs in the incubator definitely have some chance of human error coming into play. And so, I wanted to do it to show people. I thought it would be cool to do. I've never done 4 in a season. And my hopes are that people see this and take away that, one, these animals are a lot tougher than we think. And, these females, even though they might be, 40, 50 years away from their wild counterparts, they still have all their instincts and their natural history and their biology behind them. And if you want to see some cool stuff, man, let them be a snake. It's so cool to see. And then the reward at the end, getting to see babies poking their heads out of eggs from mom's coils and seeing her tenderly, like just kind of inspect and check around and loosen up to give them room. It's just, there's nothing like it. It's Jurassic Park in your house, dude.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing. So
tell me about, like, are you temp gunning the eggs or the mother on occasion? Like, have you, I'm really interested in temperature data because I would like to. So my whole thing is I think about MI and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do that. And
Mhm.
then 4 minutes later, I'm like, no, like if I do that, I'm going to lose all my eggs. If like if I try to do that, it's going to be too dry. It's going to
Mm.
be too humid. It's going to get too hot. It's going to get too cold at night because my house goes down to 71 and I don't use radiant heat panels. I don't use under tank heat. All I use is heat lamps, so, and I've had people say like, if you give them what they need, the female will absorb the heat the same way the diamond does outside and then take that back to the eggs for overnight.
Mhm.
And they know what they're doing. But I still have that uncertainty, where I feel like I could do better with a sea serpent's incubator. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
So I'd
So
love to hear some temperature data.
absolutely. The first time I did it, I was curious the same way. And so I did it the old school way. I didn't do any like digital reader and just have it plotted out for me on my computer. I had that first jungle female I did. She laid in a nice little nest box for me, fortunately. And I was able to prepare it ahead of time and plan this ahead of time. And I had basically your average sort of high-low temp and humidity reader with an external probe. And I put it in the cage and I put it in her nest box, in her coils, right on top of the eggs. So it was
Mm.
basically where her head was. And at the start of her incubation, the moss that I put in there was dry and I gave it a quick light mist so it would have just the basic little bit of moisture in there. And that was all I added. And I'd mentioned I saw that female leave and bring the water bowl closer. When I removed her and the eggs after 2 months, there was a standing line of water in that recessed lip in the bottom of the tub that I had not
Wow.
added. So she was able to add whatever moisture she needed, either by bringing it in or sweating the egg or something. But I
Was she
took,
urinating or like,
there was no urine, there was no ammonia smell. I didn't see any urates really or anything, but there was more water in there 2 months later than had been when I set it up. And
that's
so
crazy.
that to me was something I noticed and I thought that was really interesting. And so every day I was taking readings and clearing that temp and humidity reader and then recording the daily maximum and mins of the temperatures and the humidity readings. And dude, you would be shocked at the temperature swings that these eggs experience. And then I did plot it out on a graph too, to see some relationships. So the eggs were as low as 80 degrees at one point and as high as I'm seeing 92.4. Yeah, so they've had over a 12-point swing during that 2-month period where there was 12 degrees of temperature range that they experienced at any given time. And the humidity inside the nest box was always 3 to like 10% higher than the surrounding enclosure itself. And you could see on a graph when I plotted this all out, you could see that the female was controlling and responding to the dips and rises in temperature and humidity and adjusting accordingly to sort of open or close her coils to sort of mimic what was going on. And so she was making sure they weren't overheating, or they're kind of staying right in line with this balance. And so you could see sort of like a parallel like line of, the relative humidity outside and inside stayed relatively consistent at the same difference between one another. And she was in control of everything. And it was just so cool to see at the end of it all that like, not only did the temperatures not stay consistent and the humidity did not stay consistent, but she left the eggs and did all these things and nothing that we would do in an artificial setting. And they hatched out better than the times before I had done it with full control. So that was my takeaway of it all. And so this year I'm just like, y'all are pros. Go for it.
Wow. Do you think, do you ever consider their cognition and what's going on in their brain?
Oh yeah. if we could measure it, I think we'd be really, really surprised. I think these animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. They know what we're up to before we know what we're up to. If you have them in situations where you can observe them and see how they respond to you, and then how they respond to that same scenario over and over and over and over with under different little variables, and you're thinking about like, well, why did they just do that? What changed this time? Mm-hmm. It becomes very clear that these animals, they're doing what their biology is telling them to do, but then they're also trying to like pay attention to what's going on in their environment and do what they need to do to survive and respond accordingly. They're very much taking in every stimuli externally as possible and deciphering whether they need to respond to it, adjust, or just not. And certain species, I think their behavioral, repertoire is more complex than others. Like a blood python versus, a carpet, they're going to express it differently. Its eyes might twitch a little bit, and it might breathe a little bit faster, and you might even see it move. Whereas carpets, they're going to freeze, they're going to S up, the tail wiggle, they might urate, they might strike, whatever it is, but they are perceiving something, they're thinking, they're deciphering it, and they're making a decision. They know, they really do. Some of them are smarter than others, but I think they know a lot more than we give them credit for. I can't wait till we have some AI inspired technology that you or like those little, the little toy guns that you were kids with the little dish, you point it and you could hear your friend on the other side of the room telling secrets. Put the little headphones in. Point this at your snake. Hear what its thoughts are.
Want to be sad if it's like, I want a bigger box.
Hey, if they're all sitting there going like, one day they'll hear us and we'll lead this revolt, then we'll have to listen, and everyone will benefit for it. It's all about progress, right? Yeah. I mean, some of them would be a little neurotic, and, we might have to have a volume control on some of them. Like, can you imagine like a coach whip that could talk? That'd be nuts.
Oh God. Yeah. Or a dry marcon when you're feeding them. Like, what's going through that head?
Where'd it go? This is the erratic, like, oh my God.
Yeah. They're psychos. It's so crazy how calm they can be. You still get the tail rattles and all that when you like normally, but feeding is just a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is not the same animal. This is a little psychopath.
Yeah. A switch flips in their head and they become a beast.
Yeah. It's crazy. Although, it's I guess it's no different than like my boas or pythons after dark, which I do my water changes after dark because that's what my schedule allows for. Mm-hmm. And it's led to some bites recently, because
I believe it.
You go through 25 animals and, one of them you don't realize is perched up in that branch or whatever, and golly, those boas get the dilated pupils, and they're just like sharks, man.
And
it's crazy.
Something about a boa strike. It's got a little more muscle and oomph behind it. It's like a blast. Pound it.
Right onto my right thumb, dude. Right onto my right thumb.
Yeah, my poor thumbs. They have been so abused from lizard and snake bites. It's bad. It's real bad. I get lazy, about opening bins, and I just use my hands. And generally, I'm pretty good about it during feeding, but I used to be so careless, and just the pull it open, your thumb's just right there. Just game over. So
I've recently thought that with my blood pythons are still in tubs, and they'll be graduating to enclosures hopefully this weekend if all goes well.
Nice.
But I open the tub and like sometimes I'm like right there, kind of like peeking in as I'm pulling it open. Their head, like they bury themselves, and like all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, there's a head right there.
Yeah, you don't catch it right away. I almost got nailed in the face by a gopher snake last week because of that. Sitting shaving, just doing the little sandworm thing, just blah. I laugh every time because it's like, I should know better. It's fun. Keeps you on your toes, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Nighttime chores are, that's
a hard pass around here. Like, I'll flip lights on if I have to do something, but it's usually like feeding geckos at that point. Cause I have that hard rule. I'm like, no, if lights go out, man, they become something else, and it's just not worth it. Because I tried that.
Yeah.
I tried to do that same thing. I was like, maybe I can get all my cleaning done this one day in the evening so I don't waste my weekend day, so that I can spend time with my wife. And I did that, and just a lot of cursing and blood and things like that coming from the far room. My wife was like, this is not successful. You shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're right. Yeah, this is bad. So
yeah, I got punched in the arm by my Timor's head the other night.
oof.
Yeah.
Ooh, and those have to be sizable by now. You've had those for a minute.
Yeah, she's got to be at least 4.5 feet, 5 feet, maybe. It's crazy because they ball up and you'd have no idea. But yeah, she's got to be about between 4 and 5 feet. And yeah, dude, I was pushing the enclosure door open, and she just came right out and latched my arm, and it welted up and black and blue. And I mean, perfect. I mean, like, if it would have been a tattoo, it would have been perfect. Like, just every single tooth left a hole.
All the rows.
All the
nice
rows.
Green and purple around it.
Oh, yeah. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
My adult Darwin female did that the day after she arrived, coming from Nick. He wasn't breeding her, and so she was kind of getting maintenance fed. And so she gets to my place, and she was real hungry, and I had her in quarantine, and I opened the lid for the quarantine tub, and she, same deal, grabbed a meat, right on your arm and just bruised that sucker. And I had to do the whole retic chew on the tail to get her to let go, because she would not let go. She was so hungry. She was convinced she had food. She was not going to be told otherwise. So that's probably the last time I've taken a really bad adult bite, honestly. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I'm much more careful now, and I do turn the room lights on. Yeah, and I'm very aware of where everything is.
That's all you can do.
But yeah, I mean, after taking those bites and being careless and leaving cage doors open and stuff getting out, I'm like, yeah, I'm never getting venomous. That's not happening.
yeah, that's a whole nother thing. You have to have a different, regimented mindset. That's not a game. There's the margin for error has consequences, no matter how small. I had a rattlesnake here for a year, and I've worked with, venomous in my zoo years plenty. So I'm comfortable and proficient enough with them where I don't worry about them. But, I've heard other keepers talk about, like, if you have venomous and non-venomous in the same room, sometimes your habits are what get you in trouble. You're doing non-venomous care, and then you step to, but for me, it was very plainly obvious. The rattlesnake was in the middle of the room, locked cage, and the venomous bucket nearby. And I'm a very proud, never been bitten, never had an accident, and like to keep it that way, card carrying member. And, it was important to me when I got trained in venomous in zoos to, be very to the T with everything and protocol and safety. And it got to the point where I took over that program in zoos and was training, my coworkers. And so I take a lot of pride in that. And, there was one time I was opening his door with a hook, and I was just sliding the door open, and he struck so fast and around the door. It was at, like, if my hand were on the handle, even beyond the lip of the door, 2.5, 3 inches away from the edge, it'd have been game over still.
Wow.
And they strike faster than we can physically react. It's just not physically possible. So you just don't take any risks. You don't open and close doors with your hands. You don't put your hand in the space that the animal is in. You don't cross that plane. You always remove the animal, like all these different things, and even like cleaning. Generally, a shed snake fang isn't going to be a problem, even if there's dried venom on it. But you don't want to take a chance, right? If it stabs you and then that gets hydrated in some fashion and reactivates those proteins, it's trouble. So there's just all these little things that you just got to be mindful of. But again, the snakes are pretty tough. So if that animal poops in there and you can't safely get it and follow your protocols that day, don't. It'll be fine. The snake will be okay. You can get it the next day. Like there's just little rules you make for yourself, and you just don't ever cut corners. And it's some of this, like, honestly, it's some of the most boring work keeping ever. Like there's no, if you play with them and you do things that are risky, sure, it can be exciting and whatever. But if you're just like point A to point B, cleaning, going down the list, putting it back. It is the most rudimentary, non-exciting thing ever. And I think that's how it should be. Should be responsible and not sensationalized, but they're fun too, man. I mean, the fact that we have snakes with a rattle on them in our, continent, it doesn't occur anywhere else in the world, is pretty special. I think we're pretty fortunate in that regard. So yeah, they're sweet. Venomous is
why did you have that? Why did you have that rattlesnake?
So a friend of mine who was local was getting out of snakes, and he was getting rid of all of his corn snakes. And he had kept some morph rattlesnakes and a few things like that for fun, and he got rid of all of them. But this one that he and his son had caught at a lake like 6 years prior, and they just kept it, and it was far too long to put it back, and they didn't know where it came from, remember it. And so there was no ethical way to put this animal back into its native habitat. And there was no safe alternative for them at the time. And they were just keeping it in a tub in their bedroom. And like,
oh, geez.
Yeah, it was not a great situation. It was really sketchy, and they had kids in the house. And so,
oh, geez.
Yeah. Long story short, I was like, give it to me. You've got a screw bucket, bring it in. So, and I just took it off their hands. I bought a locking cage for it that day, and I just wanted to resolve that situation for my friend and his family. And then, I told my wife, about it, and I was like, it's only going to be here for a month. And then it was here for a year. I was like, this is too much fun. I miss working with rattlesnakes, like they were the most of what I worked with in my early years as far as venomous goes. And so I really have a fondness for them. But then after a point, Alan Stevens and I are, 30 minutes apart, and he's been finding them on his property up the road. And I was like, well, you've got a big old basement for all your lizards and stuff. Do you want them? He's like, oh, heck yeah. I was like, I promise I'll come over whenever you want to help take care of and clean. And so I bring it over there, and then, I go over there again to drop off some snakes for cooling in his basement for the winter. And he's got like 5 of them. And I'm like, what's going on, dude? He's like, oh yeah, we keep finding them on the property, and I don't have the heart to, I'm not going to freeze them. I'm not going to kill them. He's just like kind of keeping them. And there's like one in a Starbucks cup there. He's like, oh crap, I forgot about this little one. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll put you in touch with the Save the Snakes guy out here. Maybe he can use a few, or maybe there's a good site for relocating them or something. But yeah, it's just been, it just evolved into what it was. And now every time I go visit Alan, I get to see my little rattlesnake buddy hanging out.
Nice.
And he may have accidentally thrown a female in with that boy.
Oh boy.
While cleaning the other one, and left them and came back to them breeding. So
wow.
Don't tell California Fish and Wildlife, I guess.
I'm not saying anything. You just did.
Actually, I think Alan's permits are all good. Alan has the permits. I don't.
That's it's got to be awesome working with them, and like just talking about like cognition with snakes. And I talked to Nick about this, about like dry bites, and that makes you wonder, like why are they conserving that venom?
It has to be a conscious decision, in my opinion.
Right? They have
finite,
to be.
I've always been taught it's a finite resource that they can only make through successful feeding, sequestering all the proteins, kind of having a successful life. If they use it on something that's not going to equate to more success in life and just defense and deplete that, isn't that rather detrimental to their survival? That's where my head has always been with them. So,
yeah. And then they have to sit there and think to not flex those muscles and put the venom in. And we know that it happens. We know that people get envenomated, and we know that some people get lucky and they get a dry bite. And we know through recent research that most of the time they're not even trying to bite. They're trying to get the hell out of there, and I mean, they did that study with the fake leg, and I think they redid the study now with the fake leg, but they warmed it because all the naysayers were like, that doesn't count because there's no heat signature, so they they went out and did it again, but this time with a warm leg.
Same deal.
Same thing.
The snake, it was like something like 160 attempts, and there was only like a handful of elicited strikes, like less than 10.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like a statistically negligible amount.
Yeah, the majority of the time they just try to get the hell out of Dodge. They just want to get away.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it makes sense to me. They don't want to. I mean, they can't eat us, right? They're not going to look at us like, oh, maybe I can hork that guy down if I start at the foot. So it's not like they're doing that. No, they just want to get away and survive the moment. They don't want to waste that. So,
well, and then don't they have like communal dens as well, where the females all get together pregnant and they are gravid, I should say. And then they have their babies and they stay with the babies and raise the young.
Yeah. And then there's site fidelity. It goes even further. There's researchers who will visit the same dens year after year after year, and it's the same animals coming back. I follow a gentleman on Instagram who, he has den sites that he's been visiting for decades, and he knows the animals that brumate and winter in these dens. And, he's returned to see them every year. And after a decade or so, some of them start looking worse for wear, and he gives them water. And then, maybe he doesn't see them one year, but then the next year he does see them. And all the time he's getting information and documenting like multiple females using the same dens year after year, and litters are born, and then they stay in there, and moms will corral the babies and bring them back in when they don't feel they're ready. And there's a lot of decision making and instinct and, maternal protection going on there that is undeniable. And it's the coolest thing to see that people are researching it, finding all that stuff out. It's so rad.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like that documentary. I know I bring it up probably too much, but with the rock python that, like they follow this one rock python, and she breeds, and she's gravid, and she lays her eggs, and she incubates the eggs, and then she stays with the babies until they shed. And then they're like, all right, see you, mom. And everybody moves out, and she moves out when they move out. And then she went and ate an antelope or whatever, like it's crazy. It's so crazy. And that's just one animal.
Yeah. When I bred rainbow boas, every time females would have litters, every time mom goes around and inspects every ovum. If there's babies still in their yolk sac or whatever, I've watched mom open her mouth and like rake her teeth on it to break the membrane to let them breathe. I've seen her eat slugs. I've seen her eat a stillborn baby. I mean, these mothers are super, super dialed in. And one time a litter was being born while I was at work, and my housemate was like, you want me to get you some footage? And I was like, sure. He's like, can I open the door? I was like, yes, but keep your eye on mom. And so you see in the footage, he's like filming, he's looking really close. And then all of a sudden, mom kind of turns her head on the side. He's like, oh, and I'm out. I'm done. Cause she got real protective of her babies and was coming at them. And they know exactly what they're doing, man. They're fine-tuned animals. We don't have a way to like measure it and put it into like a box, a category that's, nice and tidy for us to label. But I definitely think there's a lot more going on upstairs with the majority of them. It's just so cool to see, man. We've just only scratched the surface on what we know about these animals, I think.
Yeah, and I know that Nick says that they have a tiny fraction of a lentil, size brain and all that, but I respect the crap out of Nick, and everybody knows that. I love the guy. Everybody loves Nick. But I can disagree with him on that. What if brain size doesn't have anything to do with cognition? We don't know. We don't know what consciousness is in humans. We don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know what it is. We don't know why we have it. We don't know if our brains are just receptors for consciousness. We have no idea. We can understand behaviors, and we can understand that when, people have strokes, that they lose their, severe strokes, that they lose parts of who they are and everything. But that's a malfunction in the hardware, right. Whereas the consciousness is like software, so, and it's not with every snake too. This because you have a ton of snakes. And when you work with a lot of these animals, that they are individuals. and
Oh, yeah.
some are more
100%.
primal. Yeah. And it's just like people, right? Like you get a group of 10 people together. You're going to have a meathead. You're going to have a nerd. You're going to have, you're going to have all these different people that excel at different things and just go through life radically different than everybody else.
Yeah.
And snakes are the same way. My Argentine boa, I know I've said it. She's got a personality. She is an individual. She is one out of many, that she's just different. I'm connected with her differently. When I come in the room, she pushes on the glass for me to open the door. She's not doing that when I'm not in the room.
Yeah.
So like there's something there, and if I want to believe that as an individual, I'm not trying to force other people to believe that, but there's something there. And I don't think we fully know what consciousness is.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we can just say that they're not conscious and that they're not thinking and that they don't have cognitive abilities.
Oh yeah. They're aware. They're definitely thinking. When I sell my blacktails, as soon as lights come on, they're out, they're looking around. As soon as I come in the room, I could feel something staring at me and turn around. My female would be just like, "What's up? Noticed you came in the room. That freezer over there, haven't touched it yet. You could get me some quail, buddy." And like every day I could turn over my shoulder and she'd be staring at me. I'm like, dude, go do something. Like, no, they were very, very keyed into what I was about, because they're like, well, maybe he's going to feed us. So let's see. And I'd open the door and they'd come over. And if you didn't know them, you'd be like, oh shoot, that thing's coming at you. Like, nah, you can put your hand right in. They know that you're not food. And the only time I ever got bit by any of them was that erratic, like, oh my gosh, I need the food. And I was using too short of tongs and I just didn't move. And I was like, oh, and she's like, there's a warm signature, and thumb. I was like, damn it.
Yeah.
Or like flipping a hide and stuck my thumb under the hide. But otherwise, like, I've taken those things to preschools and like handed them to kids and like, but yeah, they're just, you see a species like that, you can't deny that they're thinking. They're just watching you. They're thinking, they're figuring things out. Some species express it better than others, I guess, but yeah, there's definitely more going on upstairs for sure. And, seeing females maternally incubate, you could say that's all, like instinct or the biology and the pre-programming, but like they could also decide not to, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's cool to see. And any natural behaviors out of the end of any animal is cool to see. So,
yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We probably won't know in our lifetime, but it is what it is, and you can see the difference across, with the same species. You can see, different personalities in 4 different animals, just radically different.
I think generationally as a whole, people are starting to shift in that, kind of way of thinking, just by looking at how, the hobby as a whole keeps compared to how it used to. And obviously technology's improved things, but, people wouldn't have strived to improve the technology if they didn't care, or if they weren't thinking in that regard, or, so, I worked with a gentleman who's been in zoos for like 30 plus years. And when he first started, they kept all their snakes on like, pebbles and a water dish, and a heat lamp. Cobra, Doombrel's boa, corn snake, didn't matter. That's how they did it. And it's just very old school. But, it's just, again, back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all progress, and because people are caring to do better. So,
yeah. Well, and even before, you said we're in sort of this age of information sharing, and, just keeping stuff outside, it's cool. I think I had on, I had on Ron St. Pierre, and then, I had on Brandon, and I had on Tony, and I had on Lucas, and,
all guys that keep stuff outside.
Yeah. Everybody's keeping stuff outside, and it's kind of like keeping stuff inside. Like, everybody's doing it differently, which is cool too, because then you can kind of swap ideas and be like, oh, cool. So you use a heat light in this situation, and you use a heated box in this situation, and you're not doing anything. And, the guys in Australia, Aaron Carney, he keeps, like foam coolers, and he sinks them down into the substrate, into the dirt, and makes a hole so they can go down in there. And it's like a root cellar, essentially. It's going to keep a constant temperature in there. And, the Australian guys, that they're doing it a lot. A lot of guys are doing that over in Australia. Just keep the diamonds outside, because that's, you drive 40 minutes and you can find them outside.
Right.
So yeah, it's super cool, man. It's such a great time to be in the hobby.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely a renaissance of thought, of innovation, of everything. Like there's so much at our fingertips that we can get technology wise. And then if it doesn't exist, it's not difficult for somebody to realize that and then change that, so it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. And just the technology that we have right now too. Like there's just, like we were talking about the Govee timers,
the smart plugs.
Yeah. I remember when I used to keep, it was okay, go in the room, turn everything on in the morning, come home at night, turn everything off, and it's like,
yep.
Yeah. And like you said, you forget to leave, you forget to turn something off and you feel like a horrible person.
Yeah. Before I had my room lights set on timers, I would have to remember to turn the room lights on or off to give them some ambient aside from the window. Or like if I was out of town, like, hey, honey, can you go in the snake room, turn the light off? None of that. No more of that. So
yeah,
there's definitely pros and cons to technology. I'm a fan of as I said, I love technology. I'm also still using like note cards and pen and pencil for record keeping here, but
yeah, but sometimes that's easier too, and
it's less time consuming than trying to sit and put it all into a computer or do the QR scan and do it for, hundreds of snakes. As much as I love that level of organization, that's a whole nother job in itself. That would take me hours on top of feeding.
Yeah. Well, you're hiring.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Maybe one day I'll need that and they'll be like, all right, I'll get an intern. Come here, kid.
That or just hire yourself.
That's true. I'll just pay myself more.
Yeah.
I've got a new manager.
So what about how about the Apodora? How are they doing?
They are doing interestingly well. They're teaching me a lot. Especially because this season I've approached their wintering and feeding differently than I did last season. Last season, I tried to do what Ryan Young does and feed them through the winter and go sparing in the summer and do more of like the Indonesian approach to things. And I got, follicle growth. I got some locks and things, but both females reabsorbed. I didn't see any like, I don't know, like Apodora they're big teasers, man. They will, they'll belly roll, they'll side roll, like every single day. One of my females, I could flip up her hide in the morning and she'll be like upside down. But she did that last year and nothing came of it. And that's very common for a lot of people to, at most get to the point where there's undeniable, like golf ball size follicles and they're locking and they're laying up and then absolutely nothing. And so when I set to get into Apodora, I was like, well, ideally I'd love to have 2.2. And if I can have 2 of them be like wild caught and 2 of them, if somebody can produce some, I'll try and get those. And fast forward, I ended up with, I bought a baby from Dan Maleri as an import, little tiny baby. And he's now 6.5 years old and like 9-10 feet long. And the other, I got a 13-foot long-term captive female 2 years ago, and she's probably more like 14 foot now.
Jeez.
So I got that pair. Yeah, that's fluffy. And then I got a pair of 2017 captive born and bred animals, secondhand via Rob Stone. and those were produced by Kevin Welninski, and I got them at a few years old, and those animals are now adults and breeding. So actually, that pair is together currently, but this is the first season I've been rotating both males through because the younger male that I got from Dan is finally big enough where I don't feel like the females might look at him like a snack. And so then this season, I decided I was going to cycle them with my room, not try and fight that, and treat them like carpet pythons as far as the timing and the wintering and stuff. But as far as their climate goes, do them individually like what I've heard Cody Joe McEwen up in Canada do, and Ryan do for their temps. And then I also sort of mirrored that with sort of what Lisa does with the white lips too. And so I would honestly say my approach right now is almost identical to Lisa's approach with the white lips in terms of prepping them for the winter, giving them a winter cycle, then coming out of the winter, slamming them with food. And they've been locking up like crazy. My 2017 captive born and bred female actually refused a meal for the first time ever the other day. And anytime I was, last season when I was bugging Ryan a ton, he would say like that was his cue when he felt like his female was, ready to go. They'd go off food and then ovulate, shed, and that was it. So she's off food, but I put a male in again, and they locked up yesterday, and they're still together. So the nice thing is I'm home every day and with the animals every day. So what I decided to do is make a concerted effort to just watch them for hours on end when I can. And I now have a Word document on my computer that's like 9 pages long of just notes and pairing and when. Was it during the daytime? And did I see locks? Was he pacing a bunch? And anything. And so I can look back on it for next season. And yeah, they're so much fun because, going into them, I was really trepidatious about the cannibalism thing, but I'd had, some pretty rough goes and some, avoiding that with the Crebos. So I felt like I kind of earned some stripes in that regard. So I was kind of like ready to, to do battle a little bit. And then I just made sure I asked, a lot of questions to the people that I felt like I could, and just watch the animals. Ryan seems to think that a lot of the cannibalistic incidents come from potentially missed sex animals because they're so strong that if you go to probe them, you might think you're only going so far, and instead you're putting a male in with another male instead of a female. So I'm sure there's potential for that. I also think it's a timing thing. They seem to have a really tight window for cycling. And I think you just have to, you have to be prepared to do a soft intro and pull the male out and watch them. And then if things go well, if it's going to go bad, it's going to happen right away. And so you just kind of watch the female's behavior. If she's wiggling her tail, if she's exhaling loud because they're very vocal, if she's really head twitching and stalking the male, that's not a good sign. But if she just kind of is there and just lets him make contact and doesn't seem to react, you're usually good at that point. So I still watch them every time I pair them. I still sit with them for at least the first couple minutes, now more for observation's sake. But yeah, last year I think it was last year, I started pairing them a little bit earlier than I know now to. And one morning the lights flipped on and I think the male was cruising and the female grabbed him, and I saw it. And so I knew why it happened. And then I figured, okay, well, she's not in breeding mindset, so I'm clearly making the mistake trying to breed them right now. And so now I don't even start introducing until I have the females like after winter, many meals in like a weekly, like I'm hitting them with pigs every week. So they are getting slammed with food. So there's no way they're hungry. 2 to 3 pound pigs every week, and they're just going. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. I hit both females with that coming out of winter, and they both went into shed at, a month or so apart. And that's after they shed, then I started doing intros. My late mentor, Todd Dyer, he would always tell me when he was trying to pair them, once he brings them out of winter, he would first do pairings when the female was in shed, just to make sure she wasn't going to react with a food response. And then he never let them stay overnight because he was worried about them, but I think his animals might have been bigger. But after, working with the Crebos and then sitting and observing these guys for a long time, and I've left them in there for days to a week at a time, overnight together, and it's fine. I just watch them. As soon as I see them avoiding one another, because it's a very, like, if they're not interested in one another, they shouldn't be in the same enclosure. So if they're avoiding, and it's not like the male just kind of doing a lap or something, like if it looks like the female has left where she's comfortably been at for the last few days and the male didn't follow her, he's out. So to me, I take that as she just wants some space, or, they had their time. She's now interested in being over on the heat or the cool or whatever it is. And if he isn't on her like a magnet, then he's not that interested. Maybe they bred and so he's resting, or maybe she's not cycling quite yet, or whatever it is. Either way, I take all of those signs as pull the male just to be safe. But I'm doing a ton of pairing, and like if the male goes in and doesn't pay attention to her within 20, 30 minutes, I pull him out. Fluffy, the bigger wild caught girl, she has not been cycling. And so, most intros have been 20, 30 minutes. The younger male did force a lock on her like a few weeks ago. And I left them together until they split up the next morning, and she hasn't shown any interest in breeding since. They act like she's not even in there when I put them in. They just they curl all over her. They're just like, what's in here? Oh, it smells like a boy. It smells like another girl. What's going on? And I'm like, all right, you guys are out. So we'll see. Maybe she'll go later. I also think, maybe she's bigger and needs a higher threshold for food, or maybe she's further along in her cycle or not along in her cycle enough or whatever. So I'm not counting her out. She's a different animal. So I'm just watching her. She's wild caught versus captive born and bred. So, they're going to behave differently, I think. But
yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to say like I know everything about these animals, because I certainly don't, but, sitting and watching them when I'm doing the pairing, I get a lot of insight into their thought process. They're just kind of they're like scrubs in a way. They're kind of territorial. I don't know. There's just the consequences are, obviously more dangerous with them, but they're so much fun. They're super strong though. You can't fight them. If they don't want to come out, they're not coming out.
Yeah.
So
are they all pretty handleable, or no?
All of mine are. I know of a few people that have had some that were like kind of snappy, really defensive adults that were wild caught. I can reach into all of their enclosures pretty confidently, go right in with them, grab them, pull them out, get a coil moving. They've all sort of got an understanding of me now. At first, when I brought the two from Rob in, I think they were only maybe 3 or 4 years old at that time. So they were like 5 or 6 feet. And I remember one of them, I was misting down the cage, and I think it was the female. She was so upset. She grabbed my spray and nozzle, wrapped it, and tried to kill it.
Oh, jeez.
And so initially they actually would try and hit me. Even the younger male, he'd try and stalk me from the corner and hope I didn't see him. But they're sweethearts once they're out of the enclosures. It's just in the enclosure, they're kind of like, what? Are you taking me out? And they start flexing on things like, I don't want to be taken out. They're like,
oh, wow.
No! And they do this. They grab everything. So you kind of have to do that retic walking them. And then as you get them running, then you grab their tail and you just pull all of them out. It's a lot of snake. So they're fun, man. They're great. But just the wrap on them. I've watched my hand go purple from them comfortably just anchoring onto my hand. I definitely don't let them double around my neck, always keeping them spread out over shoulders if they're going up, but they just don't know their own strength. They are ridiculously strong.
Do you keep any boas?
Yeah, I have rosy boas right now. I have kept Dumerals, and then I've worked plenty with BCIs at the shop.
Sure.
But yeah, right now personally, I've also kept Amazons. But yeah, right now it's rosy boas.
Right on.
They're
how's
so
your
cool.
how's your Popwin projects going?
They're doing really well. Let's see. I think I was shooting for like 7 pairs this year. So I did just get a clutch of slugs from my boa cabana female, but she got them all out. She's young and she doesn't look worse for wear. So she'll be okay for the future. So there's silver lining there. But yeah, I've got I think 2 or so clutches in the egg, or yeah, 2 clutches in the incubator from Popwins right now. And then I'm waiting on 1, 2, or 3 more. 2 from Redman sire, repeat of last year's clutch. And then I got this really weird female from Outback that had these random like black splotches on her that just didn't make sense. And they're not scars and they're not burns or anything like that. It's just like where that back buckskin color is all of a sudden just randomly black or a weird tonal change. And it's just unusual, but she's also a beautiful colored stripe. So I paired Redman with her. So we'll see what's going on there. Did some granite animals to unrelated animals to make some outcrossed hets. And yeah, man, I'm just really enjoying making like dark Popwins and then really orange Popwins and striped ones and just kind of a little bit of everything. And they are the best, man. They're so cool. They're the easiest snakes. There's so much variety in every single clutch, and they'll hatch looking red and then they just get better and then they change. And some of them will look like a jungle, but then if you look at them later, then they fire up and all of a sudden there's like lavender silver on them. They're fascinating. And the fact that we can still get fresh blood, still get some imports where we know, this is true blue. This is what it is. And you can start from scratch there. It's really neat. And I think, Eric Burke did a great job of preaching it over the years with NPR, saying how untapped potential was there and how overlooked they are and how many different color, schemes there are within them. And he was so, so right. And, I'm just glad I listened early on because I've been having so much fun with them. They're very rewarding because there's no morph play. It's just, does it look good? Does it not? And that speaks for itself. And, I've got 2nd generation animals from wild caught animals and raising those up. And I didn't have a perspective on how, neat that was until like Stephen Katz really sort of broke that apart. He's like, dude, 2nd generation of something that started with wild caughts. I mean, when ball pythons first came in, just to breed the wild caught founders was an achievement in its own right. Granted, it might be easier today with technology, but, still the same deal. Like you have to get these wild caught animals comfortable in your setting enough to do that and then build upon that and build upon that. And I was just like, dude, these bred, now I'm going to breed these. And he's like, dude, that's 2nd generation. That's really cool stuff. And so, it's kind of like, I have to take a step back and really look at things and appreciate them for what they are sometimes. But dude, I'll never not have Popwin carpets. They're the perfect size. They don't get too big. And I don't think we've hit the ceiling on, what's out there as far as colors and patterns and lines. And there's something for everybody in there. They're cool, man. Big fans.
Yeah. Especially only being 2 generations in. Imagine what they're going to look like at, 6, 7, 8 generations in.
Right. And so that's where the line breeding potential comes in. Like you can get stuff that's, many generations captive born and bred, but like, what was the intention behind that? And like, they're going to look great, but what happens if you select for a look and then run with that for a few years?
Yeah.
It's just going to be bananas, I think, in 4 or 5 generations. And, the boa cabana stuff I have from Scott and Jen Holland, their stock comes from the first importation of Papuan stuff in the 90s. And so it's an honor to have some of that stuff. And then keep, running with it on that avenue and do some of my own stuff on the side. And, I've got another boa cabana female that I hope will lay this year, and I won't fully slug out on those, but it's just cool, man. There's so much history to be made with them and so much to tap into and see what's out there. It's, again, another sort of frontier in herpetoculture. It's just a very niche one.
Yeah. Yeah. But the cool part is that there's so many people that are working with them, and, you guys are all friends,
Yeah.
So as that goes on, you're going to be able to swap males and females with different looks that might pair up well with something that you have. And I mean, everybody's got kind of something different going on. And, Eric's got the poison ivy stuff, and, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. I've been hounding Eric for poison ivy stuff for years. And, he keeps just giving me the, yeah, okay. Yeah. And, I don't blame him. It'd be hard for me to let go of that stuff too. What was it? 4 years ago, I did a pairing of, some West Papuan animals that I got as imports from Dan Malary, and produced a clutch and, dished them out to, all my friends. It was like, here you go. You get one, you get one, you get one. And kept, I think I kept a pair to myself too. And didn't really think anything of it. They're just some dark Papuans, much more black and, darker tones overall. And then one day I was like, Tony, how's that one that I sent you? He's like, dude, you need to see this thing. And he sends me a photo of it. And the thing is almost entirely black. Like very little pattern left showing through, very, very black. And I was like, what? Where did that come from? He's like, you produced that. I said, no way. And so I hounded him for a few months, and he finally dug up the records. And so I went back to my records to confirm which pair it came from. And so I have a pair from that clutch that produced a clutch for me this year. So we'll see. And then Katz and I were going back into the records because I was like, I wonder what year that came in. So it had to have been this year. So it was 4 years prior. And it's like, Steven, did you bring these in? Did you get some from that? And then turns out Steven has some stuff that's showing a similar look that's turning like almost entirely black too. And so maybe our stuff is related, or maybe it came in from the same shipment. We have no idea, but it happened around the same time. And so now there's like that potential plus the discussion of Eric's poison ivy stuff. It's like maybe there is a realistic potential for a melanistic, IMG type Papuan carpet in the near future if we can work these out and prove them out. So, but yeah, the fact that everybody kind of, knows everybody, we can sort of just trade and swap animals. And I've already told Steven, like some of these project, clutches with like the odd black patch female, or the one from that really melanistic male. I was like, I'm going to keep all of these. Like none of these are ever going to, leave. But then I was like, but actually I'll send you, a pair, like you can work them with your project. And he's like, oh yeah, I'll send you a pair. And so like, we're already talking about like doing these little swaps, and it's fun because that's how you keep the projects alive. That's how you discover new projects. And, even if it's not the intent of it, you're supporting another person's goal and they're supporting you. And it's just the perfect example of rising tides lift all ships. And, years and years of doing that, that's how other people can get ahead. I remember talking to, again, Todd, my mentor before he passed. I was like, how did you get into this? How do you get into these higher end things? And how do you step up? And he's like, sometimes you just, you don't buy this and you save and you skip a few things, or sometimes you trade into things with other people. And just over the years, you just kind of turn around and you've somehow got it. And it's just, that's all because of community. So that I think is kind of like the accidental benefit of, doing this line breeding and sharing stuff with everybody, is like creating lifelong friendships and just supporting one another. It's really cool.
Yeah. I know, you and Steven have had your back and forth with the IJs and the Papuans, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny. I used to really want to die on that hill, and now it's kind of like an inside joke. And it's and it's funny because when we talk, if one of us says Papuans or IJs first, the other one will make sure to say the opposite. And I always find myself caving and just saying IJs because it's shorter to type in the message anyway. So I look at myself, I'm like, damn it, I just said IJ.
Oh,
But
that's hilarious.
yeah, it's, if that's what we've got, going on, we're living pretty good, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure. So I had gotten a message from Brandon a little while back, and he said that you guys buried the hatchet
yeah.
and worked through some stuff, and you guys were having drinks at was that Pomona?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
You're kicking back, having some beers.
yeah. So and that made me happy to see that, you guys were able to work through your stuff and just move on, and I know that, you've been through some stuff, and it seems like you're kind of at a point now where you're just moving on and kind of making good with everybody.
Yeah. A lot happened. A lot happened before I was aware of the impact it was having on me. And then a lot of it was, it's strange to look back on now because it doesn't feel like it was even me. Like it feels so foreign of instances and behaviors and situations that like I just could not, like there's no way I would, catch myself, saying this or doing that or whatever. Nowadays I feel like, I went through kind of a big gut check and reality check when a lot of my friends either were just giving me the silent treatment or were willing to, just tell me straight up. And Brandon was one of those people, and Tony was one of those people. And, it was kind of ironic in a sad way, because right before Todd passed, he and I were very close and we were talking often, and he was like, "What's your problem with Steven?" I was like, "That's a good question. I don't know." And he kind of forced me to like confront that reality, because I had held grudges from years past from circles of friends, and I couldn't remember why. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of lame, of me." And so I went out of my way to like start with talking with Steven, and it sort of started feeling good. And I was like, wow, that's way nicer than being grumpy or holding a grudge. And then there's just a lot of things going on, that I was seeing other people having such a good time and feeling like I was on the outside looking in. And that feeling sucked for a long time, and I couldn't figure out why. And I was, paving my own path of destruction along the way. And like 2 years in a row, I had spent my birthday at funerals, and then just trying to like get through the next year to the next one. And I didn't really take time to like work on myself, because they were their grandparents' funerals. And, in a span of like a couple short years, I lost all my grandparents. And I didn't know how important that was until they were gone. And so that started sinking in. And then when Todd passed, it ruined me, man. It's weird to say that, not my grandparents passing ruined me, but, a friend did, but neither here nor there. Life is, just too short, a lot can happen real fast, and it's gone. Another friend, couple like month or two ago, was killed in a motorcycle accident, and I'd seen him, a week before. It's just, there's only so much energy you can put into your day. Why spend any percent of it on something that you either don't love or aren't truly passionate about. And then, you know, it's better to have a circle of friends than, you know, not. So I kind of had to do um, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of just sitting around with myself and my thoughts, and just had to be honest with myself. And there are a few people along the way that were willing to be honest with me too. And, yeah, just, you know, nothing changes if you don't change. So that's just kind of been my commitment to myself and the people around me, is like, own it. You know, first step is kind of accepting everything you did wrong, and your headspace that I was in was wrong. And, you know, I wasn't paying attention to life. And then life kind of punched me a few times while I was down. It's like, oh shoot. So, you know, there's a lot more to life than snakes and boxes. And as much as I've carved my life around it and choose to live in that space, you know, our life is also full of people, and we only get one shot at it. And so, you know, spending time with those people before they're gone is more important, and being a good person is more important. And then leaving a legacy of positive in whatever fashion, even if it's just one person has something positive to say and nothing negative to say, and that's all that's you're remembered for, that's better. Like, nobody wants to be remembered for a fight they had with somebody, or for a public incident where they looked foolish or something. You know, reading the preface of Craig Trumbauer's book and seeing the foreword that Casey Lazick wrote. It's just like, you know, these people have been around for 50 years, and they're the people that came before us, and they're leaving their legacy of positivity and influence on the next generation in a positive way. And I think I was just so lost in this constant revolving wave of breeding and snakes and excitement and online, and trying to be somebody, and just so much going on that I just lost all sight of who I was, and just, you know, wasn't me. And I'm still figuring that out, you know, like every day it's, you know, something I wake up and discuss with myself. So it's a good practice. I've got a lot of support in my corner. I've got a lot of people that believe in me, and I got a lot of people that I believe in and I don't want to let down. And I've got a lot of inner motivation for myself and for the people around me. So it's been good. It's been really good. And then it's funny because I was on this, like, starting to figure things out after I'd lost my job, and I was thinking, like, well, at least, you know, I'm figuring these things out. And then the universe started kind of rewarding me and kind of pushing me in certain positive directions, and things start working out better, and the light at the end of the tunnel starts getting closer. And, you know, I was just letting go of the reins. Like, it's just better to just be happy and just take life as it comes, and just try and, you know, be supportive of those around you. And that'll be the reward, you know, because if you put good energy out towards people, it feels good to see them win. And that's the reward I get. So for me, I just want to see the people around me succeed. Because it's really exciting to see what people are accomplishing, right? Like, it's really cool. And I could either choose to be there cheering them on and supporting them, or I could choose to be that annoying jerk that everyone goes, oh, what's his problem? You know, and that's it. And then you're a footnote. So I want to leave something behind when I'm gone, and I want it to be whatever it ends up being, in a positive way. So I've just been doing a lot of personal growth and change, and that's a forever project.
Yeah. For you and me both, buddy.
Yeah. So I owe a lot to Todd and a lot of people in this community. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you've moved on from everything you've need to move, like everything you had to move on from with everybody?
Yeah. I've tried to bury hatchets everywhere I found one that I could. I tried reaching out to MJ, but he and I have had a long storied past, and I think he's over it, and I respect that, and that's fine. But yeah, everybody that it was brought to my attention that maybe I've been trying to actively just my involvement in their life is all positive and supportive now, instead of, oh, damn it, Riley's texting me bitching about something. I want it to be like, oh, congrats about this. I love sharing this of your stuff. I love seeing you do this. Congrats having success with this. And it's one of those things, there's neuroplasticity in your head. And if you start training yourself to think a certain way, it starts becoming effortless and it just becomes natural. And so I'm still in that, trying to just mentally think in a supportive, positive way to the point where it just becomes second nature. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with it. If I find more tools to add to the toolbox, I will. But it's just the examples of the people around me have been my inspiration more than not. So it's been good. It's been a blessing, honestly, to have those people around inspiring me, whether they know it or not. So,
yeah, I remember I had invited you on the show quite a while ago, and you were like, I don't think you want to have me on right now, and I remember that was kind of when it first started sort of happening, and there's a lot of people that are friends with you and you can tell are never going to not be friends with you. And they're like, these things happen, they come up, and, he's in a dark place right now. And, but even, sometimes you would message me and it would feel kind of combative. And then, like you were looking for something where there wasn't anything.
Yeah.
Just,
it's a good way to put it.
And I would, I remember sending you voice messages and saying, hey, I want you to hear the tone of my voice so you don't put any negative context into the way I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I could tell you were getting angry in the messages.
I was in my head in a bad way, man.
I was just desperately like, hey, I'm not mad right now. And I want you to know that I like, that there's no animosity here. I'm just trying to talk to you and let you know where I'm coming from. But yeah, over like the past couple months, I was worried about you when you lost your job, because I'm like, oh crap, like that's not going to be good. But then all of a sudden, like it whether it be every week or every other week, you're like, hey, you had so-and-so on your show and he said X, Y, and Z and, blah, 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 and like you were just messaging me, and it was consistently positive. And, and I noticed that. And, I think I brought it up pretty quick where I'm like, hey, you sound like you're in a much better place, and then you and Brandon, got together and talked things out. And, it's so much better when everybody's together and getting along and supporting each other and lifting each other up rather than the alternative,
100%. Yeah, man. When you give out positivity, that's what comes back to you. But at the same time, if you put out negativity, it's going to come back to you. And it's interesting to think back on it, because like, as much as I'd like to think that I was present with myself in that time, looking back on it, I wasn't. So it's relieving to see like a change within myself, regardless of anything else. Cause like, I feel better. Like I feel better every day. That the outlook on the day from the moment my eyes wake up is considerably better. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
There's just so much to look forward to every morning when I wake up. I'm like, oh, okay, what day is it? What do I get to do today? What am I doing today? And it's just, yeah, man, it's, a lot of the things in the background of our lives can seep through into how we behave, and it's best to be aware of that. I think, easier said than done, of course. I think that's like a skill in itself, that level of self-awareness, but some people are born with it. And I don't think I was.
Yeah.
I
wasn't
definitely
either.
I have a ton of, ADHD. I can't remember my childhood much from doing all the sports and running around and parents splitting up and moving around and doing all this. I've kind of just been able to just tune things out and just like, all right, this is what I'm doing, and focus on that, and just, almost to a negative level. So, I would go in waves of like being interested in being involved in the online community, and then not being interested, and then caring too much about what I was seeing. And then, like nobody wants to get in comment wars. So like, I just don't, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to get involved in any of it. And now what I found is if I just focus on these animals here and, put what I want to do in my time slots, then there's no time for any of the other stuff. And then when I do have a free moment, I'm like, oh, I want to go see what everyone else is doing. What's everyone else up to? And then you're just looking for cool stuff at that point, and then everything's gravy. So that's my day to day, is try and look at the positives in the room, and then go find the positives in the people around me, and just keep it up. Just keep it up, one day at a time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't see my therapist regularly anymore. But there was a point in my life where I really needed a therapist, and
Sure.
And it was so incredibly valuable, and just to equip me with tools that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life for those dark times, and like I've been to some very, very dark places, and I'm so relieved I don't carry that with me anymore.
Yeah.
It's
it's a sinking weight.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. And then everybody around you hates it.
Yeah. And people will tell you, like, what happened to the old you? And you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Do you think I want to be this?
Right.
Do you think I want to be this dark shell of what I used to be? I want to be happy, and talking to somebody for me was extraordinarily helpful. And, I've talked about mental health on the podcast before, and I think it's so incredibly important. And I've lost friends to mental illness, and I know too many people that have. And God, those people were in a dark place and they needed somebody to talk to, and I know that because I've been there.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, you don't want to bother people, and you feel like an inconvenience, and it's terrible. And then like realizing that you are loved and that you're important and that you matter to people is so important. And then you start to matter to yourself, and then you can love yourself. And it's invaluable, and I'm so happy for you, man. And I hope that you continue to gain those tools and stay in that state that you're in. Because I remember when I first started turning it around, being afraid of going back. Like there was like a fear. Yeah. Like I was getting an anxiety that I was going to end up the way I was again, And I don't know. Maybe this is way too personal for a reptile podcast.
No, I get it, man. Well, at the end of the day, like we all go through things, so it's good to be able to talk about it. Like nothing in life is perfect. Nobody has the perfect abilities to know what the appropriate response for every given situation in life is, and nobody can see what's going to happen in your future, so you can't prepare for the hardship that may or may not come, expected or not. And life is about growth, and life is about struggle, and how you respond to it. And it's real easy to give up, or just go with the negative stuff. And like, it takes more muscles to frown than to smile. It takes a lot more energy to look for the negative things in life than the positive things. Like, if you just kind of, well, it's obviously easier said than done, but I think there's a balance to life. Like, we always have to make sure things are done and bills are paid or whatever, but you also owe it to yourself to do what is important to you in life. And if you're not happy in life, then it's going to show outwardly. And so I think that year or two, when I was going through, I don't even know, like, I can't even like conceptualize it. It feels so foreign, but like, we'll call it my Frankenstein year, or two. I just don't even know, like, how I got off on that stop. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how it started, but I think knowing about it makes me much more prepared to prevent it in the future. And, talking to people is like one of the best tools. My wife and I actually just decided to do, some casual couples therapy, just because we've been together for like 14 years or something like that, 12 years, something crazy.
Hell yeah.
And, we feel like we communicate really well, but there's things we don't talk about. So like, all right, maybe we'll do that. And guess what? There's a beer garden right next door. So it's like every other week we're going to go talk to therapists and then go have a beer. It's like,
oh,
hell yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah, man. So, and it's funny because like, it opens up these opportunities again for me to support her that I maybe don't otherwise say. And so then it spirals into more positivity that translates elsewhere in our lives, And so it's a great reflection of the same type of work I'm trying to do with my life in my reptile world, like, it's almost like those two worlds don't meet, but they overlap in ways. And if one is struggling, it affects the other. It sounds so foreign, and it seems to make so much sense, yet not at the same time. I don't know. It's when you're in it, it's hard to be aware that you are the tornado ripping up the town, because everything's just going so fast, and you're just, somebody pulled the cord and you just can't stop. So yeah, I'm very grateful for people like Phil, for Todd, for Brandon, for Tony, for you, for Eric, for Owen. I spent a lot of time trying to get back to Eric and Owen and rebuild those relationships. And Eric and I talk again, and Owen and I talk again a little bit. And, it's just one of those things, like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And, all I can do is, own where I went wrong and not do it anymore, and just try and be better for it and for the people around me. So, and that's more fun. That's more rewarding, because every day is now seen through a different lens, and it's much brighter. It's more exciting. It's more fun. It's happier. It's more optimistic. I'm looking forward to this new journey of starting the LLC and just not even looking for a job and supporting myself fully and jumping all in. It's just, sometimes you just got to go through those crappy waves, and then maybe hit what it feels like a rock bottom, and then you realize you have to crawl your way out. And I've always kind of learned things the hard way, I take it. So.
Yeah, man. Is there any better feeling than walking out of therapy?
No,
it's such a great feeling, isn't it?
You feel very honest and good about yourself. Like, cause you can tell yourself all the lies in the world and there's no consequence if it's just in your head. But like, if you are open with yourself and outwardly, and then like, man, accepting who you are feels really good. Accepting who you are and your feelings and everything feels really good. Like, I remember when I got my first tattoo, I was so scared my dad was going to like belt sand it off me. And because he had said he would. And so he found it after like a year. And then, 15 years later, I've gotten so many more and I've just shown up with them. And like, I used to hide them and now I don't. I came home with a full, forearm piece and I was just like, hey, what's up? And he said his piece and I was like, cool, man. You want a beer? I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
Like, and now he's just like, whatever. And it feels so good to like have that off of you, like if you can't be yourself in your own home, like, dude, you're never going to be yourself.
Oh man. And is there anybody more in the entire world that you should be yourself with than your parents?
Right.
Like those are the two people that if they don't accept you for who you are, it's so
hard.
incredibly painful.
It's hard. It's hard to work through, man. Like they finally accepted that the snake thing isn't a fad,
at this point.
20 something years later. And now they're like, okay, we'll get you silly cobra socks or something like that. And they just accept it, like I think one year they're like Rodent Pro gift card. And I'm like, high five, way to go. Like good job. You're learning. But yeah, you just gotta be comfortable in your own skin. And the reptile community is really good at accepting people and reminding you that that's important. Look at all the people from every single walk of life in the reptile world. And like, like who'd have thought any of us would know, an amazing anesthesiologist in Bill Steele. Just like what? I wouldn't talk to an anesthesiologist, but I know Bill Steele, or like, just whatever else everybody else does. They're all amazingly gifted, and then they come together in their free time with this reptile stuff. It's like, dude, these people are really talented in so many cool ways. I don't know. Yeah. I just keep going off. Like it's an exciting time to be in reptiles, and there's so many cool people around, man. And I'm very blessed that there were people that were willing to invest in helping me like recorrect the ship so I can see that and experience it and be a part of it again. Cause dude, it was lonely. It was real lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's that, I think that's gotta be, as a dad, I've said that to my wife. I'm like, no matter what these kids want to do, we have to accept them for exactly who they are. And that's it.
Yep.
Because otherwise, oh man, like I said, it's so painful when your parents don't like who you are, Yeah. And like, I don't want to ever inflict that pain on my kids.
Yep.
They're too important, They just need to be who they're going to be.
Yeah. They're the future, man.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe they'll be into snakes. Maybe they won't, who knows? Yeah. They're going to be them.
Yeah. Kids are really good at, adding perspective to life, even if they're not your own. Sometimes they'll just say something and you're like, dude, that was really deep and profound. And you're saying it because the simple fact of whatever it is, but like,
yeah,
sometimes they say something, you're like, wow, that really does not matter. You're right.
Yeah.
It's just like, holy crap. Yeah. Kids are great for that. I love that the hobby is, so multifaceted with kids and adults and everybody all involved. Good, refreshing reminders, right?
All the way up to the OGs, and that's what's so cool about it. And like you said, all different walks of life, the diversity of the people in this hobby is insane. It brings together so many people. Like you said, Bill Stiegel, and then you have Jeff Croce, who's, just this wild tattoo artist that does incredible art,
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool, man. There's so many overlap with neat circles. Like actually, one of the gals who did my couple of my pieces locally, I met her through the shop that I used to manage. She was a customer of mine, and I was like, "Oh, I like your work." She's like, "Oh, I'm a tattoo artist." I was like, "Customer." So yeah, that's how it goes. You just meet people, and it's a journey. It's a fun ride. So it's cool.
I can tell Todd was very important to you. Can you tell me about him? Can you talk to me about Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. Todd was an enigma. Just one of those guys that was born to be hands-on with snakes. Like, he could breed snakes. Like, you give him the least amount of tools and he will breed everything. Like, he's gifted. He could put a male with a female one time and know, like, okay, this is the time to pair them. And she would be gravid, and it would be 100% hatch rate. It would be a perfect clutch, and he'd have put the male in one time, and that would be it. And he knew. He taught me how to palpate. He showed me what a big, full scale warehouse level production was. He showed me the challenges of, costing this and affording this and doing this and what you have to sacrifice. And he brought me to the warehouse a couple times, which at that time, to me, I had been made aware that nobody goes to the warehouse. You're not allowed. It's Kerry King, it's Todd, and there's video that Henry Rollins has been there once, and otherwise, like, unless you're in there, you're not invited. And I met Todd by going to the shows when I found like this circuit of shows when I was out of college and working in zoos. I was like, so there is this whole other like big world out there. And so I started going to every single SoCal show that I could when I was in Santa Barbara. It was just a 2-hour drive. So I was just like, I'm going, whether there's people with me or not. And so, big Slayer head, big metal fan, I find Todd Dyer and Psychotic Exotics and instantly start, linking up with other carpet python people and meeting Tony and Terrell and April and a bunch of people that were all in that like Central Valley area. And a lot of them have kind of spread out to like Tennessee and a few other places, but like Brian Cusco and Brandon and all those guys. I met all those guys kind of around the same time. And, but I was always going to Todd's booth anytime there was a show, and I'd always go to him, look at all of his snakes, talk to him and pick his brain. And I don't know what it was. I was drawn to the animals very quickly, knew that I wanted to work with them. And that was a whole roller coaster in its own trajectory. But I very quickly found out that, down in Southern California, Todd was the man. And up in Washington, Nick was the man. And then there was the Northeast sector of everything. And so I felt very spoiled to have, somebody in my backyard that was considered like the guy. And I very quickly realized he did so much volume and was such a one-man band that like it was hard to get a hold of him. And that made me want to get a hold of him even more and want to learn from him even more, because I could get, podcasts from other people and I could hear these things from other people and I could do this. But Todd was a hard resource to get a hold of. And once I finally got my foot in the door, I didn't ever want it to close. I wanted to talk to him all the time at every show. I wanted to like help him out. I was like, dude, do you need help cleaning the warehouse this weekend? I don't have anything to do. And he's like, no, I have a system. Like, I can't just like have somebody come in and help because it would slow things down because there's a system to it. And I was like, I get it. But I was still like, yeah, you need any help? You want me to take photos? Like, there's that annoying little, young college kid or post-college kid. And I was excited in my zoo career. So then I was excited about finding the hobby sector. And I was excited about, sitting on both sides of the fence. And Todd he took me under his wing. I would see him at every show and I was buying snakes from him. I was learning from him. And then at one point, he took me to a dinner with a bunch of other show breeders and he paid for like, my all you can eat dinner at this like crazy beef place that had like 50 types of meat. And we tapped out after like 7 and some little kid ate like 26 and like just all these things that I was like, he could have chose to not, spend any attention at my direction, or he could have chose to not invite me there or do this and that. And like, one time he was packing up for a show and I was like, I got to go say bye to Todd. And he was like, here. And he gave me, a Darwin head albino. He was like, take this. You don't have any Darwins, right? I was like, no. He's like, here. I was like, what the hell, dude? And so very quickly he started opening up to me. And, the first time I went to the warehouse, he puts a tiger jag in my hand, like a 2 or 3 year old female, super reduced pattern, beautiful animal. And I'd never seen anything like it. And I was just like looking around at this, just taking all it in, and just like hundreds and hundreds of mostly carpets, but then retics. And that was the first time I had an Apodora thrown on my shoulders. And that was a very, very, profound moment for me as well. But this tiger jag I was just like mesmerized and looking around, and Todd's like showing me this and showing me this. And it bites me in the face. And I was like, oh, and he turns around. He's like, what? Did you just get bit in the face? And I go like this, and there's blood. And we both looked at each other and started laughing. And I was like, oh, dude. And he's like, well, that one's yours now. And so I was like, okay, well, then I guess I'll still buy another one, because I was planning on buying one from him. I was like, well, I'm not going to walk out with this free one having not bought one. So I bought a really nice tiger off of him as well. And at that point, I was like, okay, he's not just putting up with me, he's investing in me. And we would exchange numbers, and we would talk from time to time. And he was still hard to get a hold of because he's super busy. But then in 2022, things were going, not so great with his, mental health and other things going on in his life. And then Carrie ended up selling the business. And I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to be even more present for Todd during that time. And so I just made it a point to stay in touch with him after he was essentially out of the snake game, because I knew how that must have sucked. And then our relationship evolved into not just, friends on a snake level, but just friends on a personal level. And we started talking all the time, about like, what are you doing in life? He's taking care of his parents. He's happy taking care of his parents and taking them to their vacation house down in Mexico, and sending me photos every time he's there. And then he'd always call me late at night, and we'd talk about the snakes on these different islands that he's like, I could get a boat and go out there. And I'm like, let's do it. And I'd get him all hyped to, just talk snakes a little bit once in a while. And then he started talking about his comeback into it, and he would open up to me so much more. And he was checking on me and was asking how I was doing. And I realized I should be checking in on him. And then we got really close in the last few months before he passed. And it's weird because like at the time I just kind of thought, oh, maybe he's, drinking a little bit, because he would stay up and he'd hit me up and it sounded like he had some whiskey or was drinking a little bit. And then turned out, if he had a hard time sleeping, he would go back to drink a little bit, because he got sober for a few years, but he never got out of control with it. And, when he came back to it, and he was kind of doing it because he was stressing out and having anxiety about his parents getting old, and, what happens if, something happens to him. And, he was already larger than life to me. And then he became human to me, and became an even better friend. And he was always like, what are your Apodora doing? How are they doing? You're going to breed those. You're going to get those someday. What happened with them? Did she ovulate? What's going on? Like always checking in on me in the Apodora, and always in my corner rooting for me at that point. And, man, life was looking really good, and I was really happy for him. And then it's not fair stuff,
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, he was a very special guy. He knew snakes better than himself. I would see him all the time, like, how you doing? What's going on? He's like, I have no idea. It was a joke. It was just always speeding around shows, snakes, doing whatever. But you asked him about snakes, he could tell you exactly what was going on with that snake.
Mm.
And Apodora was his white whale, like the one thing that he wanted to accomplish and he never could. And he really, without trying to, got me infatuated with them, because the time he put his big, like 14 or whatever size female on me, I had no idea what he was doing. He's wearing Birkenstock shorts and a Slayer shirt. He goes, check this out. He's pulling this out of the cage and he throws her over my shoulder. I'm like, the hell is this? And she's in shed and she does this slow motion side eye look at me. I was like, I'm gonna die. And he's like, nope, she's cool, man. She's cool. And like her feet were, or her tail was like wrapping around my feet. And he was just like showing me all this cool stuff. And I was, yeah, that was really profound because I was like, I've never held something this strong and so dense. And at the same time, the whole scenario of like him wearing this red Slayer shirt and some just sort of dad cargo shorts and you know, Birkenstocks in an LA warehouse. And he just grabs this big ass snake, just manhandles it, and chucks it at me. I was just like, dude, this is cool. Like, you know, I love my dad and he and I are two completely different people. And, you know, he supports me in his own way and shows it in a different way than I show support for people. But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that Todd at a certain point kind of felt like a father figure to me, especially, you know, in the last few months, because, you know, he's, you know, 13 years older than me, I think.
Yeah.
So like close enough where like we kind of have a lot of generational, you know, relative humor and things like that. But at the same time, to me, he was, you know, the old guard of carpet pythons and kind of he was the man, you know. You know, not that Nick and Dr. Julander are not just as educated, but I didn't grow up, you know, into this hobby with them in my backyard. I grew up with Todd in my backyard, and I always looked at people like that as, you know, on a different level. And so when those people that are on a different level do very human things, it makes me like them even more. And he wasn't just like that to me. Like, he opened up just as much, if not more, to Stephen Katz. And like when he would go out of country, Katz would, you know, help with his collection. And like, if you'd asked me years ago if I was jealous of Stephen about that, I would say, yeah, I'd be like furiously jealous. But like, I'm so happy that he had Stephen. And I'm so happy that Stephen was, you know, in the same position to be benefited and benefit him. And there's just, you know, so many people that he would like literally give the shirt off of his back for. And it was never publicized. He was never posting anything on social media. He didn't like to show off. He didn't like to share much. He wouldn't even tell you his birthday or let his picture be taken, really. Like, he's a very introverted guy, but at the same time, he would give everything for anybody. And he had good perspective. You know, he never lost perspective after however many years that like the kids still matter. You know, the animals still matter. Progress is still important. And it's always good to, you know, still be second guessing yourself. Like, he would tell me, he was like, I don't want to get back into snakes the same way. I want to do it and see these animals. I don't want to put animals in racks. I want to see them in displays. I want to do, and so like his mentality was evolving, and he was never stuck in you know, like one approach. He was always willing to, you know, learn and evolve, and you know, I told him many years ago, one day at a show, I was like, dude, you have the best job in the world. I want to be just like you when I grow up. And he looks at me and he goes, shut the fuck up, dude. No, you don't. You don't want any of these problems. And then 10 years later, I was like, hey, Todd, how funny is it that not only do we now look alike because I've lost all my hair and you keep your hair very short and bald, but now I do the same thing as you or as you did. And it's just funny how things work out. And I told him, I was like, I want to be just like you. And he was like always trying to push for me to do something more or bigger or better with myself, which is great. But like you said earlier, your kids want to be something. You got to support them in whatever it is they want to be. I'm I'm stubborn, dude. I don't compromise in what I like in life. And I realize that, subconsciously I would do it, realize, early, but now it's like, dude, if I don't want to do it, I'm just not going to. If it's not something I'm all in on, it's just never going to happen. And without consciously thinking, okay, this year I'm taking steps to get closer to being full time and be like Todd, my journey just went that way. And, yeah.
Yeah.
The universe is more complicated than we know. Yeah, I mean, we all owe it to ourselves to do what we love. And such a trip, dude.
Yeah.
Well, just goes to show it's worth
yeah. It's pretty crazy the people that you can meet and bond with over snakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. It's really wild if you think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that when I was 9, my random interest in California king snakes was going to do this. And nobody in my family is like a reptile person. Like, the closest thing to that, my mom, she's always been an animal person. Like, she's never not had a horse as long as I've been alive. She went to college at UC Davis, and she would ride her horse to class and tie it up to the tree outside her class,
Wow.
So, I feel very fortunate and blessed to have been born into a reality where my mom and my family around has allowed an appreciation of nature and stuff to be present with me, because I feel bad for the people who have never, been to a rainforest or, seen rescued animals in a sanctuary or, just gone to the mountains or something. Cause like, it's an important part of my life. And I'm very grateful for this appreciation of the natural world that I have. I think it's very integral to who I am. So yeah, it's a profound element to our lives.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. I have friends I talk to daily because of snakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I have
know?
more reptile friends than I do, friends from high school or college, hands down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we live in a blessed time with a lot of things to be grateful for, It's pretty cool. So the more we can keep that sort of present and be grateful about it and appreciative in the moment, I think that alone has been the biggest thing that makes it easier for me to stay positive. It's like being aware of like how good I have it,
Yeah.
being aware of, just how fast it can be gone. So
yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah. And you have your orangutan baby to be proud of,
We literally have a photo of him on our fridge. And he's at Atlanta Zoo now. I think he turns 3 or maybe just turned 3. And so he's on display at Zoo Atlanta. They have a surrogate mom who has a history of being a great surrogate mother to babies that weren't, raised. And so once he was good to go and they did a bunch of transfer planning and stuff, he went there and Madhu, the female, took him in. Like, she birthed him, herself. And so we've gotten video updates of him like climbing like 30-foot ropes and swinging, hanging upside down. And my wife's like, like protective. Mom's like, no. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Look at that. He's just being a little boy on a jungle gym. And Rachel's like, no. It's so funny, man. Because every time there's like babies at the zoo, she's like, all right, these are my babies. So like baby capybaras, I got to go see them. Baby okapi, got to go see that thing a bunch of times. So it's cool, man. It's a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this up.
Sure
I
thing.
appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you sharing. And I hope that everybody that listens to this reaches out to Riley 2.0. And
yeah, I got the new software on deck.
Yeah, I hope you keep spreading positivity and bettering yourself and doing what's best for you, man, and following that dream.
I appreciate it, man. The last thing I'll say is I said it to Phil Starkey this afternoon, because I posted about, officially getting my LLC approved, and he was like, glad to see you did that sort of thing. And so I basically told him, thank you for pushing me in that direction, and, really kind of being that starting force to be like, you should just do this, and get me thinking about it. And I told him, I was like, I'll never be one of those people that says, I'm self-made, did it on my own. No freaking way. It's a community built, thing. It takes a village, and I'd be foolish and very naive to think I've gotten to where I'm at on my own. So yeah, I mean, even my parents who aren't like, my mom appreciated the look of the lavender hog nose. That took her breath away. She's like, oh, that's cool. But like, my dad, when I put a carpet python in my little sister's hands for the first time, he was like, oh boy.
Yeah.
He's getting ready to disown me at that point. But, I don't think he's too worried about me at this point. He's like, he's got to figure it out. He's on a path, and he's not paying for me. And, life is good. I'm healthy, and got a roof over my head, and I come home for the holidays. So
yeah. And you got a strong ass wife out there raising
orangutans,
crazy zoo creatures,
giraffes. And yeah, man, she's a badass. They even have her help out with the alligators now. So,
oh damn,
yeah, Guinness, the big boy. He's a sweet guy. So
hell yeah, man. Well, keep it up, dude. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you right back, man. Thank you for everything.